We have seen some dips, and what's funny about this, as I was looking at it, it was like there would be a weird disruption in like a van, reefer, or flatbed, like this weird drop in hopper freight or bulk freight. And I see that firsthand because we have trucks, and as a matter of fact, the fuel sipper sitting right on the other side of this wall is ours. My brother drives that every day. It's a thirsty girl. But so I get to see it firsthand myself, and it's just funny. That's my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. Don't know that it's right, but that's what I believe. I like to show the tank as well. Tank does include petroleum products, but it also is, ammonia, anhydrous, propane, liquid fats, fertilizers, those types of things. There's a lot that can be said about their baseline in 2010. A lot of weather issues have impacted them, but we're still seeing a steady growth for the tank industry as well. It hasn't had the moves simply because the entry barriers for tank are a lot higher. Higher insurance, hazmat, all those things. You just don't see those entrants. It's not that easy to go park your dry van and go hook a tank. In the spirit of talking about commodities and the volatility we're seeing in the market right now, we are in some levelization. I think that sure, if you were to zoom in on that graph, you'd see some wavering in commodity pricing because of what's going on in the stock market. But we are starting to see them stagnate at an elevated level, which is a good thing. Typically, when you have this volatility in the market that we're experiencing right now, you see some stagnation in commodity pricing. Sure, it'll move a few bucks here and there, I get it, but for the most part, they will stagnate wherever they're at, just to happen to be wherever you hit the market. So if we were really in really bad commodity pricing, it would stagnate there, or even if we're really high. We just look for them to stagnate for a little bit here as the market kind of figures out where it's going to be and tariffs kind of sink their claws in. The biggest concern right now, if I had to put my thumb on any one of these, would be metals and minerals. If anybody's watched the news in the last couple of days, our friends over in China and us are deciding to butt heads a little bit. And China has 90% of the control over the top 17 minerals, the precious minerals that we need to make things like aviation products, military products, semiconductors, those types of things. And it's not so much the minerals are hard to come by, it's the fact that they refine them in China. And for us to just say, well, we'll just put a refinery in the United States would take, I've heard, anywhere from 15 to 20 years because of our EPA regulation. China doesn't care about the environment, so they just refine it. And that's just the way we've done it. It's cheap and they don't care. So in the spirit of talking about commodities, I like to touch on this. I love Purdue University. Their ag department puts out a monthly ag economy barometer. This is a survey of 400 farmers across the country, producers in various industries, picket, dairy, crops, everything, and also 100 different individuals in the ag business sector in some form or fashion. And this is just their overall feel on our country. Sentiment, the farmer sentiment is just how they feel about the country in general. And as you can see, since the election, it's really jumped up. And with the announcements of tariffs, it started to fall a little bit, but not nearly as much as what we thought it would. We actually kind of expected it to go through the floor with the amount of exports we have. But there's a couple reasons behind that, and I'll get to it here in a minute. But for the reason I like to talk about this is that these are the guys that produce a lot of the goods that we haul. And what's interesting is they feel better about the future than they do right now. So the gold bar you see is what how they feel about current conditions, and the teal one is how they feel about the future over the next 5 years. They still feel better about the next 5 years than they do right now. So there's still a level of confidence, and we think why is because of partially farmer financial performance. We've started to see a levelization between about 95 and 110 on this index. So they still have the ability to reinvest in themselves, and they feel like the money or their cash flow is starting to level out. And they're not concerned about their ability to produce the goods. So that is a key indicator. And also, was just to say it, the Trump administration is pro-agriculture. And in this survey, they ask if things get worse, if import or exports have a big downturn on farming, there'll be some subsidies out there to help them. So The goods we produce, farmers feel, or the goods we haul, farmers feel pretty good about producing them. Next, I want to talk about our diesel price outlook. I'll say this, this is one of the things we're starting to see level out a little bit, and we anticipate to continue. With this, uncertainty in the market, and the amount of trucks on the road wavering, having that control back in the United States for the most part is really helping us, mitigate what the price level is. I think the West Texas Intermediate yesterday or the day before committed to another 441,000 barrels of oil per day, and the pricing's hovering around $60 a barrel, plus or minus. One could argue that it needs to be closer to $65, $70 a barrel. But I think just having that stabilization and being able to shut down, pumping stations whenever we need to and firing them back up as demand changes for the use of diesel fuel and petroleum products is a good thing for our industry. One can make the argument about, fuel surcharges. I hear you there. But, I think if you have one metric that you can cost control and you feel pretty confident about it, it helps you with your rates. It makes you feel comfortable in what your cost per mile is. So I do think this is a really good thing. We're seeing that price level out there between $3.50 and $3.75 across the country. Just to touch on regulation and how it impacts us, there's a lot going on there. I mean, the Trump administration's looking at every CARB and emission measure that's ever been took right now. What we're being told is that the EPA 28 emissions and on are going away or being drastically reduced. We don't know what the end of that looks like right now. And the EPA 27 emissions that are coming out here next year are being changed drastically. I'm told that the hardware is you're still getting your dual SCRs, all that stuff's happening, but it's the warranty piece that was really, really expensive that is really what's going backwards for the OEMs right now. CARB has already pulled back with the Trump administration. They withdrew from their ACF, EPA waivers. That stands for Advanced Clean Fleet. And in a nutshell, guys, all it was is for every diesel truck you bought, you had to have so many zero-emission vehicles to offset that. The CARB's already pulled back on that quite a bit. So a lot coming there, but I think that EPA is not going away. I think that the EPA regulations or the tiers that the OEMs have to meet is going to be further apart and allow them to manufacture a good product for us that give them more time for research and development and give them easier targets to hit. Coming from the dealership, I can tell you it's hard on the OEMs to meet the standards. Right now, their EPA standards change every 3 years, and they've got to put a new product on the road that's more efficient. It's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, we've all felt the heartburn that comes along with emissions. So I think this is a good thing for our industry. And let's just go ahead and address the 800,000-pound gorilla in the room, old Big T. This slide's wrong, I can tell you that, because I gave it to Tyler on Tuesday last week, and this has changed a whole lot. There's so much uncertainty around this right now, guys, but I think the one thing that we can certainly know for sure is the 25% tariff on steel and aluminum and fabricated components is coming. You're going to feel that immediately in the pricing on your equipment. The United States, Mexico, Canadian agreement compliant goods will remain at zero, and then the ones that are non-compliant will have 25% tariff as well. We're going to feel a lot of that right away. 40% of our steel and aluminum products come from Canada and Mexico. And I like to specifically bring up aluminum because if we wanted to say, well, okay, let's get it somewhere else, our other trading partners combined can't make up the difference. So you are going to feel that. And this is the impact that we're going to see on our vehicles right away. And I wouldn't be a good banker if I didn't talk about interest rates. As we see, the Fed's job is to control inflation and unemployment. As we see those things wavering with these tariffs right now, we anticipate another 75 bip cut in 2025 and 100 bip in 2026 if these tariffs take hold and do what we think they're going to do for the foreseeable future. Originally, we were anticipating another 50 bip cut in the second half of 2025 and then another 50 bip cut in 2026. So interest rates are still on the decline. So moving on to just to wrap this thing up, guys, there's a lot of uncertainty out there right now. I think we can look to, positives are interest rates, relaxed regulation for, our domestic manufacturers that are selling products domestically. It's actually a good time to do business. The big concern is everything coming over the pond, right? So when I think about our industry, I think we're still on the road to recovery. It's no secret what we felt the last couple of years. We're still on that road. Less bad is good. I break it down into three different pieces. There's the freight demand, how much freight's out there, capacity, is there the right amount of trucks to haul these goods, and then what are we getting paid to haul them? The takeaway is the market is middling. We are seeing that rebalance happening, specifically in bulk. We're seeing a lot of carriers leave that came over when freight rates got bad. Again, domestic manufacturers, lower interest rates, relaxed regulation is helping them. There's a lot of positivity around those partners that we talk to. The tariff threats right now are driving up some freight volume. I think that's good and bad. I think we're seeing some elevated pricing and some elevated volume because of manufacturers front loading and over the next 90 days. But there's going to be a pause, we feel, beyond that. From a capacity standpoint, we're nearing that right amount, maybe. I think when you look beyond 2026, if this happens like we think it will and all these manufacturers come back to the United States, that could potentially drive up freight demand. It could require more trucks as we're doing more shipments throughout the United States. It is a good time to buy equipment. As crazy as that sounds. I'm not saying go double your fleet by any means. As from a banker, you always hear bankers say that, right? But equipment prices are probably not going to go down. Dealers, I work with a lot of dealers that are sitting on inventories that they need to move, and I can bet you if you order something, it's probably going to have a surcharge, or it's going to see a big increase toward the end of the year. So interest rates are falling at a decent price. So not a bad time to update some of your fleet. If you've run them a little longer than what you normally would, your trade cycle's been extended because of pricing or just the lack of volume, whatever the case is, not a bad time for that. And with the EPA 27 rollback and the pricing changing there, the big pre-buy we were anticipating this year is kind of going away. So I do think, I don't want to speak too much for the OEMs and the dealers, but I think there is some motivation to sell you some equipment right now. In regards to freight rates, it is a slow grind higher. We are working out of that hole. I think we just need to stay persistent. Fuel price stabilization is helping for better rate control. I think that anytime we can have a piece of the equation that we feel confident that we're controlling the cost and know what our rate per mile is, that's a good thing. And the last thing I'll say is, less trucks are on the road. It's going in the right direction. Less trucks means better pay. Stay in your lane right now and let the dust settle. This is my disclosure saying I'm not an economist, I'm a banker. So, no, seriously, guys, thank you. This is my contact information. I produce a weekly economic update for the transportation industry. I've got a team of economists within BMO that I work with. If you want to get added to that mailing list, shoot me a note. And also my cell phone's up there. Guys, that's my personal cell phone. I don't have a work phone and a business phone. That's just too much complication for me. I'm always available. I'm always happy to talk. I like having these conversations. I want to hear real world experiences out there. That's how we truly get better. Building that dialogue, especially in this industry, makes us so much more productive. So again, I want to thank Jared and the team for having me and allowing me. I don't feel like I'm qualified to do this. I just eat, sleep, and breathe trucking. So thank you for having me, and let's have a great conference.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? The room is more packed this morning than I expected it to be, with as many people that were at Big Whiskey's last night. So congrats for being here. Thank you for being here. Wow, Riley, thank you. That was awesome. So many gold nuggets in that presentation. It's really rare to find a banker that knows trucking as well as Riley and his family do. So use him as a resource, network with him. He's a great guy. Got to meet him last year, and he's somebody we utilize at BulkLoads all the time. So we'll call Riley, hey, what do you think about this? And as many truckers that we can push his way, we always do, because we know that they're going to be taken care of. So thank you again, Riley. That was great. A few housekeeping items real quick. We know that you guys are busy and that your phones are probably blowing up. So there are working rooms outside on the second floor. So if you go up the escalators and you need to get in a room, there is Wi-Fi. So find the BulkLoads network on your Wi-Fi, and you can ask anybody at registration what that Wi-Fi code is if you need to go out and take a break. After our next speaker, it's going to go into a networking time. You'll be able to go back into the room that we were in last night and go over a network. And then obviously grab coffee and talk amongst yourselves. So if you don't know me, my name is Larry Hurt. I am the CEO of Bulk Insurance Group. We are the fourth company created by the family of BulkLoads companies. Came on in 2022, and we've been building that group out. So I see a lot of the clients in here today. I want to thank you guys for being here. I also want to take the time to thank my sponsors. You probably saw some insurance guys out last night. So thank you to 10-4 who's back here. Thank you guys for sponsoring. I also want to thank Steve and Brian from Continental Western, who's here, a big partner of ours. Thank you guys for being here. National Interstate, another partner of ours. They're here. You're going to be hearing more from these guys later. And then Aaron Cornegie from Progressive, who's also here. So thank you to the sponsors. Thank you for investing in the motor carriers and the brokers and shippers that are here today. Now, with the next speaker coming up, it's my honor to get to introduce him. He's been a longtime friend. I've known Steve for about 5 years now, and he's a great guy. I go to Steve all the time with questions. Hey, Steve, what do you think about this? Whether it's usually it's some sort of finance question or a question that I get from one of our clients who's asking about how do I keep growing, where do I grow, how do I grow, when is the time to grow, and what does that look like? So I'm very happy that Steve took the initiative to come and speak for us. We're grateful to have him. Steve has led large organizations in trucking. He's held titles of CFO for trucking companies that have over 300 power units. So Steve is dialed in on financials, and he knows his stuff, and we're really grateful to have him. So without further ado, please help me welcome Steve Perryman.
So the key is having a good plan, a good business plan, and then executing it. The money's not the hardest thing. I know it's hard for people that have one truck trying to find the second one, or 5 trucks trying to find the next 5. But as you get into a strategic growth initiative, the money's not going to be the hardest part.
I'm not so sure of that today. Well, welcome. Good morning. My name is Steve Perryman. I'm not sure that I'm qualified to be here, other than if you're a good observer of the first 2 speakers, I am wearing the uniform. Did you notice? Jeans, white shirt, blazer. You know, I didn't get a lot of heads up about what to wear, what the dress code was. I kind of knew the audience a little bit, but this is my first conference, so I wasn't exactly sure, and I thought, well, the uniform can't be wrong, and gladly I'm following suit here this morning. So I'm glad you're here. Branson, Missouri is the center of the Ozarks. I'm an Ozark Mountain boy, and I'd like to say welcome for those of you that are visiting from out of the region. My background is a little bit varied, if you will, and the title of this is Strategically Growing in a Down Market. And if you will allow me a little bit of a speaker latitude here, I'd really like to change the word growth to thrive. Thriving in a down market, because hopefully you will get that thriving will lead to growing in almost every situation. So why me? Well, my education, I'm a University of Arkansas graduate, Whoopie Tsui. I have a CPA. I've been a CPA since 1983. CPA, for those of you that don't know, stands for Certified Public Accountant. My wife says it stands for constant pain in the, well, whatever. That's the only joke I'll tell. My background experience is as Larry said, was varied. I've worked with a lot of different companies over my now something north of 40 years of experience. And some of my experience comes from the most unlikely sources. I learned about understanding your business, understanding your limitations, understanding the life cycle or the cyclical nature of your business early in my career from a little sawmill operator down in Stone County, Arkansas by the name of Roy. His nickname was Digger Bagby. Little operator, never was a big-time guy, but man, he understood his business as well as anybody that I've ever known. And I learned more from Digger Bagby probably than I have anybody else. The other thing that I think might qualify me for this is I'm a contrarian that believes in learning from disruption and thinking outside the box. If you'll see my logo is SRP Advisors LLC. It's down there in the corner, and it really is broken out of a box. It's thinking outside the box, and it really goes back to being a contrarian. I'll say some things here maybe this morning that you might begin to label me politically on one way or the other, left or right, and I will tell you, you won't know who I voted for in any election ever. You may try to guess, but it will really be rooted in my contrarianism. I like to ask questions, so if you brought me in for an engagement to help you with strategic planning or growth initiatives or getting an accounting department straightened out or any of those kinds of things that are services we offer, I'll start asking you questions, why you do things. For example, why do you need all of those lights on your trucks? I mean, they're pretty, but are they making you any money? You know, that's kind of a contrarian question. It's kind of an ego-driven thing, right? I mean, are those lights really making you, is all that chrome really making you a lot of money? And you might get from that I don't like fancy big W900s that get 4.5 miles a gallon. No, I think those are the coolest trucks out there. You know, these big fleets, they operate what I call plastic disposable trucks. But they're big for a reason. So I'm a contrarian, so don't misinterpret what I might say for some political statement. And maybe why shouldn't it be me? Why am I up here? Well, I'm a dreamer, not much of a doer. People will ask consultants, well, if you're so good at this, why aren't you just doing what I'm trying to do? Well, I'm not real good at doing what you do. You guys are in the trenches. You guys are fighting those battles every day. You're taking on the risk. I'm an accountant. I'm trained to not be a risk taker. So maybe my son, by the way, said leave this slide out. So growing in a down market or thriving in a down market probably requires a different way of thinking. Some of you may be what I call shirt pocket operators. I know a lot of Digger Bagby was kind of a shirt pocket operator. But if you want to grow, if you have a desire to grow, you more than likely are going to need a paradigm shift from being a shirt pocket operator to thinking more like a suit coat operator, and then maybe eventually even what I'm labeling here a tuxedo operator. The big companies, the ones that really have grown to achieve, I've got a lot of knowledge about Prime, for example. It's operating something north of 9,000 trucks today that grew from the ashes of a bankruptcy some 40 or so years ago. They're a tuxedo operator. They're absolutely a tuxedo operator. Organizations that thrive through these down times understand the 4 basic pillars required to be a powerhouse. And this is not original thinking. I'm not going to give you a lot of deep thought. Hopefully I'll generate some curiosity on your part, maybe some different ways of thinking about things. So first, it's your team, it's your people. Second, it's your strategy, what I call why. If you saw the podcast, I talked a lot about knowing your why. Again, if you hired us for a strategic initiative to help get you centered on a good strategic path to growth, the first question I'm going to ask you is, why in the heck do you want to do that? And if you can't give me a good answer, we're going to have to spend a lot of time on helping you or growing or wanting to grow or desiring to grow can be an ego decision, and that's usually wrought with failure. And then how do you get it done? Execution. What's the plan? What are the daily things? What's the daily grind? What are the daily things, weekly things, monthly things that we must be doing to execute this plan? And then lastly is you got to have the cash to do it. Cash is king. You know, I've got a poster up in my office that says cash is king. That's kind of an old saying. It's been around a long time, but without cash, you'll learn the lesson that my second major employer, a guy named David McNeil, anybody from Arkansas might remember McNeil Trucking. Steve McNeil now runs that company. It's David's son down in Little Rock, small operator, does a great job. But back in the 80s, I was their a controller, way under qualified to be their controller at a very young age back in the 80s. But David had a desire to grow, just like some of you do. He had about 75 trucks at the time. He discovered buying trucks was pretty easy at that time. Finding a lender to loan him money at that time was pretty easy. And he went from 75 to 150 too quickly. And growing too quickly is literally a mathematical equation to growing yourself broke. And he had to go through a reorganization and the downsizing. And again, still in business today. His son operates the business. He survived. It wasn't a liquidation. But it was just simply because he didn't learn or didn't understand the mathematics of growing too fast. So a lesson I learned early on was balance sheet. Know your cash. Make sure you're not growing so fast or so out of control that you grow yourself broke. So first, your people. And I want to talk about quickly characteristics of people that I have seen that were not successful in thriving in a downtime. I think there's a lot to learn from. It's probably not fair to call them failures, but a lot to learn from the people who aren't thriving. A lot of them are micromanagers. If you're a micromanager today, just understand if your business grows 10 times, how are you going to manage all of those aspects of that business? So if you're a micromanager, if somebody has accused you of being a micromanager, if you think there's a chance that you're a micromanager, absolutely get some help coaching you out of that. Don't surround yourself with dumber yes people. You can't be the smartest man or woman in your business. Quite frankly, a lot of these successful owners that I've known are probably the least intelligent or the least smart person in the room. You can't be anti-technology. Now, don't misunderstand me on that one. I'm not saying you need to be the leading person at the front of the line, standing in line over a couple of days waiting for the next iPhone to come out. You don't have to be early adopters to technology. You just can't be anti-technology. You can't be easy to anger. You've probably known some of these people. Hopefully she's not watching on the live stream. I have a mother-in-law. Love her to death. I've been married over 40 years. I've known my mother-in-law for over 60 years. She is a fantastic woman, and I love her to death. But she's a woman that gets up every morning, I swear, goes and looks in the mirror and says, what am I going to be mad about today? And I'm not exaggerating that. Hopefully, she's not watching. But you've known people like that. And if you are one of those people, it's going to be hard for you to thrive in a down market. And then this last one is a quote from a friend of mine that I just think is worth putting up here. You can't be taking dollar advice from your dime friends. Does that make sense? Is that something that makes sense? Is that a saying that makes sense to you? A lot of people get their advice from the internet. A lot of people get their advice from social media. And they're thinking on a lot of things. I'm a believer. I'm a churchgoer, but they get a lot of their business advice from the pulpit on Sunday. Not the best source of good, sound business advice. know who your team is. Those are your people you need to be relying on. And then more importantly, what are some keys of really successful people, characteristics? Know your why. I want to talk about that a lot. Be a builder of teams that trust each other. Have above average, not great, doesn't have to be great, but have above average communication skills. That's a trait that if you feel like you're lacking in, go get some training. Communication skills are easy to learn. Be humble, or at least not driven by your ego. Be always learning. Most of the successful leaders of companies that I have known, and I use leaders to be owners and C-suite kind of people or key people. It's your spouse. We saw the marriage panel last night. That's your team. That's your C-suite in a lot of your organizations. Most leaders of thriving organizations are avid readers and sponges of knowledge. I would encourage you, if you're not in that vein, you should be doing that. And then let's talk a little bit more about your team. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because it's so much common sense. If you haven't read the book, Good to Great, it's Jim Sullivan, published some 25 years ago now. It's a little bit out of date, but you should add it to your reading list. In there, he talks about getting the right people on the bus, getting the right people in the right seats on the bus, and then you're ready to take the bus to your destination. So your team's got to be the right fit. One of the things, I think one of the questions that came up in the marriage panel last night was, what's one of the hardest decisions that you have to make? I wasn't exactly listening that closely. I was checking my Facebook at the time, but I believe it was around business decisions. And I can tell you one of the hardest decisions that I've seen leaders make is having to terminate a person or sever a relationship with a person who helped them get to where they are today. That's one of the negatives that's often not talked about with teams, is the very people that get you to where you are may not be the people that are going to get you to the place you want to go. And those are hard decisions to make. So your team, get the right people, get them in the right seats on the bus. The core of what I want to talk briefly about is strategy. Everybody's heard the quote, culture eats strategy. So absolutely the first step in writing or establishing a good strategy is get your culture right. Culture, or businesses, especially businesses that are a bit more substantial, can fail, have failed. I've known them to fail or at least not thrive because they had a toxic culture. And some of those, it didn't matter the complexion of the team. The team could change, but the toxic culture still existed. So you have to look to what the common denominator of all that is, and it's usually you. So if you have a toxic culture, if you don't have the culture correctly, again, easy to work on. If you know anybody that works for Prime Trucking and you ask them, why is Prime so successful? And if you're not aware, Prime is extremely successful in all the categories. Number one refrigerated carrier in the nation, has the lowest operating ratio, substantially lower than any of their competitors. Their profit per truck is unbelievable compared to their competitors. If you ask anybody at Prime why they are successful, they will tell you the answer is, it's our culture. My son went to work for them several years ago, still works for them today. And I was trying to express to him this culture idea. And it's hard to tell somebody about why Prime's culture is so successful or why it's the core of their business until you actually get there and you experience it. And then about 3 months into it, he calls me up one day and he says, okay, Dad, I get that. What do you mean, Sam? What do you get? He said, well, I get this culture thing. I'm experiencing it now. I get it. I understand. It's hard to explain, but it's the piece. Consider your why and refine it until it's gospel. Build a universal agreement with the why. You may understand what your why is, You may understand what your mission is. You may understand why you're doing what you're doing, but if the rest of the group doesn't understand, or worse, if they disagree, then you're go back to the start and get things right. Make sure everybody is in agreement. Convert your why into a simple mission statement. Don't write one of these wordy mission statements. I actually had a partner one time I joined. I got a whole nother session we can talk about someday about why you shouldn't get into partnerships. Some of you may be in partnerships, and I apologize. But we had this mission statement that was 2 sentences. The first sentence was 39 words long, and it talked about mutually beneficial relationships with your staff and it just went on. And then the last sentence was, and above all, glorify God in everything you do. How does that second sentence not trump everything else? Let's just delete the first sentence and say, our mission is to glorify God in everything we do. That partnership ended not long after that, but again, I'm a contrarian. There's this great quote from a guy named Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan runs an organization called Strategic Coach, and it goes like this. If we're having this discussion 3 years from now, and we're looking back to today and over those 3 years, what has to have happened in your life, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy with your progress? I kind of hacked that up, so let me read it again. If we were having this discussion 3 years from today and you were looking back over those 3 years, what has to happen in your life, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy with your progress? Additionally, or specifically, what dangers do you have now that need to be eliminated? What opportunities need to be captured? And what strengths need to be maximized? There's a great Dan Sullivan strategic coach exercise that I would love to go through with some of you on that if you were so inclined. It's called a 10X exercise, and very quickly what it means is just imagine yourself 10 times bigger than you are today. You use the metric, 10 times more trucks, 10 times more revenue, whatever it is. Imagine yourself 10 times bigger. What would you be doing differently than you're doing today? It's a great exercise because you're going to say things like, well, we'll have a full-time HR department, or we'll have 10 fleet managers instead of 3, or we'll have a full-time CFO, or we'll have a full-time safety department, or those kinds of things. Well, what you will have just done is you will have made the decision to do those things. Now it's just a question in this growth cycle about when you're going to do it. Not are you going to do it, but when you're going to do it. The 10X exercise is just a fun, fantastic exercise for you to get focused on where your organization's going. So a strategic plan looks simply like this. It begins with thinking about what you want to do, all this stuff we've been talking about. And then it goes to planning. How are we going to do it? Then it becomes the action piece, the fun piece, but also the hardest piece in this. You're going to learn from that, and then you're going to wash, rinse, and repeat. It's a strategy or strategic planning is a continuous process. I kind of expand this to look a little more like this. You learn, and then you ask this question, is the plan too complex, or are there action steps too hard to achieve? If the answer is yes, you simplify the plan. If the answer is no, you simplify the plan, and then you go back to the beginning and wash, rinse, and repeat again. That's the strategic planning process. A lot of people have maybe through organizations you've been involved with, have been involved in a strategic plan initiative, and it's for some requirement. I was a trustee for a higher education organization one time, and they had to write a strategic plan to get their federal funding. It was one of those things they had to have, and so they went through every 10 years writing a strategic plan. They put it up on a shelf. They showed it to the regulators when they came around, but otherwise they went on doing business like they've always done. That's not what a strategic plan is. It's a plan on how you want to operate your business. So then there's the execution piece, if we can move on. You can get really sloppy with execution if you have killer strategy and some really hard-working, highly dedicated people willing to work 18 hours a day. just recognize you're losing a lot of profitability and time. So don't compensate for sloppiness by trying to work harder. Maybe the number one thing I'm the guiltiest of. I try to cover up my inadequacies on leadership and organization and by working harder. So don't be that person. Then let's talk about cash. Cash is really a short hand for the balance sheet, which is really about the value of your business. I love sitting in a room full of trucking company owners. I've literally done this before with, at that time, was my boss. I was still working as a CFO for Christensen Transportation, and Don Christensen was in the room, and Don says, and we were having this conversation about getting timely information from the back office, from the accountants. And Don says, all I want to see is a simple P&L. Okay. I think what you just said, Don, was what you really want to, what you're only interested in seeing your income statement. You use the word simple. I've worked with you for 10 years. I'm fairly certain we're going to disagree on what your definition of simple is, but we can move on from that. A P&L is an extremely important financial document that you should keep. It's your scorecard of your operation, but more importantly, or as importantly, is the balance sheet. It's who you are. It's the snapshot of your business. It's how you look at, was I successful? Am I building value? And there's some key components on the balance sheet you should be aware of. Cash is at the top. How's my cash? Do I have the cash I expected to get? Am I having to borrow money to get more cash, which leads to the next component of the balance sheet, which is debt to equity ratio. There's going to be a great session this afternoon on Know Your Numbers. I encourage you to go to the Know Your Numbers session, and they'll cover a lot of this in there. But all this other stuff works if you don't have the cash, if you don't know where your cash is coming from, if you don't understand where your cash is going, then you can't operate, right? You can't operate without cash. So as an owner or a leader of your organization, you must have a daily focus on cash, especially right now. You heard Riley talk about the uncertainty. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty out there in the market right now. So keeping close tabs on your cash on a daily basis is important. And probably next important is understanding your receivables and your payables. Changes in receivables and payables can disguise what's happening in your cash. So know all those things. Just understanding your business beyond the P&L is really my message here about cash. So here's my call to action. It's a little wordy. I apologize for that, but start with your financial statements. If you don't completely understand all your financials, balance sheet, income statement, maybe even a cash flow statement, maybe you're one of those people that really only have thought about financial statements when I'm too close to the lake. The bank asks for financials because you're trying to do some financing, or maybe it's the end of the year and your accountant needs a financial statement to get the tax return completed. If you're that person, you're missing one of the most powerful pieces of information in your business is a good accrual basis set of financial statements. So understand all that, be really conscious about cash, equipment, debt, customers, operations, teams, bankers, lawyers, accountants, coaches, friends, and most of all, your family. All of that is related to your financial statements, which is really the value of your business. All of those things. It really drives your why, in my opinion. And then work on defining, this is your second call to action. If you're really kind of unfocused about your mission, your why, start working on that. Don't make this step hard. Don't overthink it. I'm always being accused of being an overthinker. Don't be like Steve. Keep it simple. But get some words on the whiteboard. And then I can't mention it enough, we're currently living in an extremely unusual time. where the best strategy right now, just heard Riley say it's a great time to buy trucks. The accountant and me kind of broke out in hives on that one, but that's okay. It's not bad advice, and I understand why he said it. But right now, because of all the uncertainty, might be the time to step back, sharpen the saw while the forest is on fire. Digger Babby was in the sawmill business. He really understood the cyclical nature of his business. I'm a young accountant. I've been taught in school. Things work on 12-month, 52-week cycles. The reality that Digger taught me was, at that time in the hardwood business down in Stone County, Arkansas, was kind of a 3-year cycle, and he was going to lose money one year. He was kind of break even one year, and then in the third year, he was going to make a lot of money. So in the down year was the year that he stopped. He took the spoils from the previous positive side of the cycle. He upgraded his mill. He did a lot of investing back into the mill to get ready for the next cycle. So maybe right now, because of the uncertainty of all that's going on in Washington right now, maybe now's the time to work on sharpening the saw. So in conclusion, just a couple closing thoughts. I'm not an original thinker. I steal all my ideas, good or bad, from somebody else, more than likely. And I just want to kind of give you quickly some of those sources. If you haven't read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, I encourage you to listen to it. It's a hard read. I've tried to read it several times. Can never get through it, but it's a great listen. So get the audio book of it and listen to it. It's on my about once a year listening. I've already mentioned Dan Sullivan and the teachings of Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan has got a great YouTube channel. There's a lot of short videos out there on things like the 10X and all that. Scaling Up, I skipped over Scaling Up, is really the Rockefeller Habits. It's just a framework on how to run your business. There are a lot of good frameworks out there, and some of you may be in some of those teachings like Traction or EOS. Scaling Up is one of those. And then lastly, I have a very good friend, Dr. Ethan Slaughter, who has really done a lot of research over the last several years on the virtuous business model. If you don't know anything about this, I encourage you to do a little more digging. It's beyond the scope of us talking about it right now, but the virtuous business model is about things like integrity and communication and trustworthiness and those kinds of things. So I encourage you to read up on that. So can't get away without having a couple of seconds to tell you what we do. I've recently retired in the last couple of years from being the CFO for Christensen Transportation. I'm venturing into this area of strategic planning, facilitation. I think this may be the slide where I misspelled facilitation. I'm not sure. Executive coaching, fractional or part-time CFO. I have Tracy Jones with me. I keep wanting to call her Tracy Moreland because I've known her entire life as Tracy Moreland with me. She's in the back of the room. Tracy and I are beginning looking for clients that are interested in fractional or part-time controller. Maybe you have great bookkeeping staff, but you need somebody to come in and help close the books and refine this financial statement thing at the end of the period, in the end of the month. We'd love to talk to you about that. And then I'm really interested in starting what I call a benchmarking or a 20 group, where we get non-competitors together, 10 to 15, maybe 20, thus the name, together periodically to share ideas, to maybe compare numbers and that sort of thing. So there'd be a financial perspective, but there'd be also other perspectives that can come to safety, maintenance, a lot of different things. If you're interested in joining a bench group, come see me. I'm looking for 5 or 6 to get people to get that started. There are also other good ones out there. If you're a member of Truckload Carriers of America, they have a great benchmarking program, and take advantage of that. So here's my contact information. If you're interested in anything I've said, I've got a substantial reading list. I've got some other resources on some of these topics I've talked about. There's some great TED videos out there on why, establishing your why. Those kinds of things, just shoot me an email. I promise you I won't bombard you for the rest of your life on email blast, but I will send you links to various information that you asked for. So don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be around here through the close of the conference tomorrow. Hit me up in the audience. Excuse me. Hit me up at the break time. I love to visit with you. I love to get to know people. So thank you to the BulkLoads guys. It's been great. Good conference.
Let's give Steve another round of applause. That was great. My name is Brett Williams. I'm the Director of Employee Development at BulkLoads, and the guys tease me about that title. They don't exactly know what it means, but I'll break it down. I work with all of our employees, track their performance, make sure they have everything they need to serve you guys better. And so work here out of Springfield. But the talk Steve gave was so great. We come across so many companies that are growing the right way and other companies that want to grow so fast, and a lot of times they'll get themselves in trouble. So I encourage you to reach out to Steve, and that was really gold stuff. And so we're going to transition now into our break time. Our vendors will be over here in the exhibit hall. We encourage you guys to all move over there, network with each other, grab some coffee, and then we're going to meet back here at 10:25 for our next session. So we'll see you guys soon.
And you don't have to call me Merle Haggard anymore. Even though you're on my fighting side. And I'll hang around as long as you will let me. And I never minded standing in the rain. But you don't have to call me darling, darling. You never even call me by my name. Well, I've heard my name a few times in your phone book. And I've seen it on signs where I play. But the only time I know I'll hear David Allen Coe is when Jesus has his final judgment day. So I'll hang around as long as you will let me. And I never minded standing in the rain. But you don't have to call me darling, darling. You never even call me by my name. Well, a friend of mine named Steve Goodman wrote that song, and he told me it was the perfect country and western song. I wrote him back a letter, and I told him it was not the perfect country and western song because he hadn't said anything at all about mama, or trains, or trucks, or prison, or getting drunk. Well, he sat down and wrote another verse to the song, and he sent it to me, and after reading it, I realized that my friend had written the perfect country and western song, and I felt obliged to include it on this album. The last verse goes like this here. Well, I was drunk the day my mom got out of prison. And I went to pick her up in the rain. But before I could get to the station in the pickup truck, she got run over by a damned old train. And I'll hang around as long as you will let me. And I never minded standing in the rain. Lord, you don't have to call me darling.
Mississippi, down through New Orleans. Yes, I have. I played in California. There ain't too much I haven't seen. No, there ain't. Thought I'm a rambling man. Don't fool around with a rambling man. Left a girl in West Virginia, up there where that green grass grows. Yes, I did. Got a girl in Cincinnati waiting where the Ohio River flows. Oh, girl, I'm a rambling man. Don't give your heart to a rambling man. You'd better move away. You're standing too close to the flame. Once I mess with your mind, your little heart won't beat the same. Lord, I'm a rambling man. Don't mess around with any old rambling man. Better not. Well, up in Chicago, I was known as quite a boy. Yes, I was. Down in Alabama, they call me the man of joy. Still do. Yeah, I'm a rambling man. Don't fall in love with a rambling man. You'd better move away. You're standing too close to the flame. Once I mess with your mind, your little heart won't beat the same. Lord, I'm a rambling man. Don't mess around with any old rambling man.
The first thing I remember knowing was a lonesome whistle blowing and a youngin's dream of growing up to ride on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound, and no one could change my mind but Mama tried. The one and only rebel child from a family meek and mild, my mama seemed to know what lay in store. In spite of all my Sunday learning, towards the bad I kept on turning, till Mama couldn't hold me anymore. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Dear old daddy, rest his soul, left my mom a heavy load. She tried so very hard to fill his shoes, working hours without rest, wanted me to have the best. She tried to raise me right, but I refused. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried.
If you fly in from Birmingham, you'll get the last gate. If you blew in from Boston, though, you sure won't have to wait. And I'm learning a little more every day. About the power of the dollar and the people with white collars and the good old American way. I've noticed I don't get much help when they see my blue jeans. Some slick with a suit walks up, oh, can I help you please? Yes, I'm learning as I gain a little age. About the power of the dollar and the people with white collars and the good old American way. Some high society lady says, is your horse outside? No, ma'am, he's between my legs, but you're too fat to ride. And you're learning a little more about my ways. What I think about your dollar and your white collar and your good old American way. If you don't like my nudie boots, I'm sorry about that. Don't make fun of my hat too, you might get knocked flat and you'll learn some more. If you ever pass down our way, about the folks without the dollars and without white collars, hell, they are the American way. Suey!
The only two things in life that make it worth living is guitars that tune good and firm feeling women. Now, I don't need my name in the marquee lights. I got my song and I got you with me tonight. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, with Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' pain songs and Newberry's train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. So baby, let's sell your diamond ring, buy some boots and faded jeans and go away. This coat and tie is choking me, and in your high society you cry all day. We've been so busy keeping up with the Jones, 4-car garage and we're still building on. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, with Waylon and Willie and the boys. This successful life we're living got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between Hank Williams' pain songs and Newberry's train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain.
Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, William Whalen and boys. This successful life we're living's got us feuding like the Hatfields and McCoys. Between the Hank Williams pain songs and Jerry Jeff train songs and Blue Eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lukenbach, Texas, there ain't nobody feeling no pain.
She's been playing at a room on the strip for 10 years in Vegas. Every night she looks in the mirror and she only ages. She's been reading about Nashville and all the records that everybody's buying. Says I'm a simple girl myself, grew up on Long Island. So she packs her bags to try her hand. Says this might be my last chance. She's gone country, look at them boots. She's gone country, back to her roots. She's gone country, a new kind of suit. She's gone country, yes she comes. Well, the folk sings dead, but he's holding out in the village. He's been writing songs, speaking out against wealth and privilege. He says, I don't believe in money, but a man could make him a killing. 'Cause some of that stuff don't sound much different than Dylan. I hear down there, it's changed, you see. They're not as backward as they used to be. He's gone country, look at them boots. He's gone country, back to his roots. He's gone country, a new kind of suit. He's gone country, yeah he comes. Commutes to LA, but he's got a house in the valley. But the bills are piling up and the pop scene just ain't on a rally. And he says, honey, I'm a serious composer, schooled in voice and composition. But with the crime and the smog these days, this ain't no place for children. Lord, it sounds so easy, it shouldn't take long. Be back into money in no time at all. He's gone country, look at them boots. He's gone country, back to his roots. He's gone country, a new kind of suit. He's gone country, yeah he comes. Yeah, he's gone country, a new kind of walk. He's gone country, a new kind of talk. He's gone country, It's the same old tune, fiddle and guitar. Where do we take it from here? Rhinestone suits and new shiny cars. It's been the same way for years. We need to change. Somebody told me when I came to Nashville, son, you finally got it made. Old Hank made it here. We're all sure that you will, but I don't think Hank done it this way. No, I don't think Hank done it this way. Look at so's I'll understand. Are you sure Hank done it this way? Did old Hank really do it this way? Thought I've seen the world with a five-piece band, looking at the backside of me, singing my songs and one of his now and then. But I don't think Hank done them this way. No, I don't think Hank done them this way. Take it on.
I brought flowers to your door last night. I done you wrong and I wanna make it right. You say I'm not welcome here. I know it ought to be perfectly clear, but I can't help but wonder what it might be like if I had 2 dozen roses and an old bottle of wine. If I really could have hung the moon, would it change your mind? If I could cry a little harder and get a little less sleep at night. If I had 2 dozen roses, would it change your mind? Oh, I must have been a fool back then to lose something that you can't have again. I've done all that I know to do and second guess my every move. I can't help but wonder how it might have been if I had 2 dozen roses and an old bottle of wine. If I really could have hung the moon, would it change your mind? If I could cry a little harder and get a little less sleep at night. If I had 2 dozen roses, would it change your mind? If I could cry a little harder and get a little less sleep at night, if I had 2 dozen roses, would it change your mind? Oh, baby, could you change your mind? Oh, baby, would you change your mind? Oh, baby, could you change your mind?
Oh, play me some mountain music like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on down the river to a Cajun hideaway. Drift away like Tom Sawyer, ride a raft with old Huck Finn. Take a nap like Rip Van Winkle, daydreaming again. Oh, play me some mountain music like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on down the river to Cajun hideaway. Swim across the river just to prove that I'm a man. Spend the day being lazy, just being nature's friend. Climb a long tall hickory, bending over, skinning cats, playing baseball with shirt rocks, using sawmill slabs for bats. Play some back home, come on music that comes from the heart. Play something with lots of feeling, 'cause that's where music has to start. Oh, play me some mountain music like Grandma and Grandpa used to play. Then I'll float on down the river to Cajun hideaway. Hey, hey. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play me mountain music. Oh, play.
Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw 'em on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night. Waiting in the front yard, sitting on a log. A single-shot rifle and a one-eyed dog. Yonder come my kinfolk in the moonlight. Louisiana Saturday night. Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off
your shoes and you throw 'em in the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night. My brother Bill and my other brother Jack, belly full of beer and a possum in a sack. 15 kids in the front porch light. Louisiana Saturday night. When the kinfolk leave and the kids get fed, me and my woman gonna slip off to bed. Have a little fun when we turn out the lights. Louisiana Saturday night. Well, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw 'em on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night. Yeah, you get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw 'em on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night. Get down the fiddle and you get down the bow. Kick off your shoes and you throw 'em on the floor. Dance in the kitchen till the morning light. Louisiana Saturday night.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rollin' around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps rollin' on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep moving, and that's what tortures me. Well, if they freed me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
I was a highwayman. Along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side.
It's 3:54 a.m. here in Missouri. We're getting ready to leave, fly up to Erie, PA, to visit Barnhart Transportation. They are a company that wanted us to come up and do a video shoot. This is something I absolutely love doing and wanted to be a part of. So we're getting ready to head up there.
Talk about the beginning. Where did all this start?
My brother and I, Brian, we started the business back in 2003. Our father was closing down his construction business. We came from commercial construction. We ended up buying the semi off of his company because he was already doing construction in like 3 states. So we bought the assets off of him. Of course, it was just 1 truck fleet. Then right away we ended up getting a 2nd truck. Our dad came to work for us. He was our first employee. So we hired him. And then we just kept growing from there.
Had a motor and tranny sitting up in my old shop, so I found this glider, rolling chassis. It was a glider, picked it up, and we built it here. I built probably 6 or 7 gliders back in the glider day, when they were easy to, well, not easy to get at, but more readily available than they are now. Yeah, no emissions. That's what everybody, they don't let you down that way. It's a lot easier to get fixed.
So does Tim have his own truck too?
No, he doesn't even have a CDL. He can't even spell CDL. And he'll tell you that he doesn't want anything to do with driving.
We definitely get that on video.
Yeah, he doesn't even want to drive. No, he never got into it.
Yeah, I still have my Class A CDL.
Why don't you use it?
I very well could. Maybe I haven't had a DOT physical in a while, but
yeah,
I need to pass that first.
We're going to start our first panel, if people can take their seats. The title of this panel is Succeeding Through Uncertainty. And we got good friend Kelly Wilson, Austin Hammond, and David Gleason up here with us. So, man, first off, thank you all for coming up on the stage and talking about this. We're a little bit behind schedule. We're going to push through this. This may spill over just a little bit into the 11 o'clock hour, but then Marcus will come up, and then we'll be dismissed for lunch. But I'm just going to kick it off. And Kelly, right now when we're talking about, tariffs going on, and I'm sure your business partner, you guys are talking about it. I'm sure employees ask about it, but how do you address that and moving forward? Again, because there is some uncertainty there, but when those questions get asked, how do you guys talk about that as a company?
Well, I think for one, it's very fresh in everyone's minds, and things are changing. We've heard it already this morning by the day, by the minute. So again, we haven't really discussed it throughout the whole company, but Jordan and I do have discussions and try to address those things without hitting the buzzword of tariff and trying to control, okay, what do we need to do? A lot of these sensors come from Mexico that are on these trucks now, and just talking with suppliers, vendors, trying to find out any information we can. Again, I don't want to get the cart in front of the horse and kind of run it as a scare tactic or anything like that with that tariff word, and let's just see where it plays out here.
Yeah, that's good. Before I forget, you all can ask questions. If you have the app, there's a section on there where you can ask Q&A questions. Really encourage you to do that. If you get your phone out, make sure you download the app. And you can send questions in, and they'll be fed right to me on stage. So please send questions in as we're talking here. But Austin, I'll kick it over to you. You guys have grown tremendously in the last 5 years. And, we're kind of a little bit of a setback.
we're seeing rates are down, kind of looking into the future though. How do you, with your employees, when you have those discussions about, the rates just weren't there? I think when we came down, which we haven't released that video yet, but we did an episode with you that'll be on our YouTube channel. But we were talking about how 2024 was one of the worst years for a lot of companies. But how do you address that and talk about the future?
So 2024 was a tough year for everybody. I think you even mentioned that Prime, when you talked to them, said it was a rough year.
Yeah.
Just learning from our mistakes and everything on that, and try to do better in 2025 and just be more rounded on making decisions, making the right decisions, trying to better yourself for the coming years and just keep moving forward at it.
David, for your company, have you all had to make different decisions based on this uncertainty over the last couple of years, whether it was purchasing assets, maybe going a different direction with freight?
Yeah, 24 hit everybody pretty hard, smaller carriers especially, because we're not able to leverage what, a lot of the bigger guys are able to leverage. So like for us, we went from pretty much a strictly hopper fleet to we've now added walking floors to be able to diversify, some of our freight, and add capability of doing palletized and commodity at the same time, and a few things like that. So yeah, we made a big change coming into 2025 just to be able to stay, on keel of what we were looking to achieve, going forward.
Yeah. The gentleman, Sam Parrish, he's here. We just were speaking a little bit ago, but he was saying how he's actually parked all the hoppers and pulling tanker freight and hauling milk, actually, and just to diversify in that. Kelly, I was visiting you. I think it was last fall we came out. We were driving through and stopped in. You graciously bought us lunch, which was awesome. But it was cool. Like, I didn't know that you guys have even diversified into ready mix. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was a big topic item last year. We're all to the point of actually buying these volumetric mixers. But due to some sourcing of certain products, our inputs for the concrete ready mix, we actually decided to back out. There was some commercial agreements that were in place that would not allow us to buy some of the product for a competitive rate to be in the market, and it just didn't pencil. But that brings me to my point, is from day one, when Jordan and I started the asset side, we started a budget, a very, very simple budget. And all these numbers are at your fingertips. Now it gets better as you get into 2-3 years down the road, because you have data to back up against it. You've got your balance sheets, as they've talked about earlier this morning, to back up against that. And ours is a simple Excel spreadsheet, but it's live. It started with 20 line items when we first started, and now it's 160. And we can change our fuel price within that calculator, if you will, and it will change our bottom number with a click of enter, and tell us whether that is a profitable month, week, day. If we want to add on 15 trucks, we can see if that's going to be a good move for us. We use that calculator to prove out that volumetric mixer deal was not in our favor at that time.
Yeah. Austin, your company, you guys are pretty involved in the pet food industry. Have you seen a setback or recession on pet food ingredients?
Not necessarily a setback. It's been pretty steady throughout the course of the last 2 years, 2.5 years that we've been into it. It's probably one of the most steady things that we've found, consistent and week in, week out. Compared to the chicken livestock market, with Cargill turkey shutting down, that's going to affect us and several other carriers on soybean meal, grain, corn, I guess, is a big one for them. But Pet food has probably been our main source, and that's what we really strive to go after.
Yeah, that's good. I did get a question in that I failed to introduce my panelists. So, David, I'm going to kick it back to you. Actually, if you don't mind talking about your company, where you guys are based out of first, and then I'll ask you a question about like how many trucks you run, where you guys are out of.
We're based out of Ogden, Utah. So yeah, we're from clear out west. You know, everybody else is, you know, here mostly from the Midwest. We're the guys out on the other side of the Rocky Mountains. Like I said, we run mainly hoppers, but we've added walk-in floors. We got flatbed availability. Actually do some road train, you know, Rocky Mountain road train, belly dump work and stuff. But run 3 trucks, a couple owner-operators that work with us from time to time. And so still a fairly small outfit, you know, family run, me and my wife. But, you know, just trying to do what everybody else does and get through all this and see where everything ends up, you know.
Do you all deal with products or commodities that are being exported, and has that made any effect this year on business?
Most everything we do doesn't really involve the export-import markets and stuff like that, but we've seen definitely some changes, especially with our stuff that we do in California, because there's a lot of stuff that we do that comes in port, out port, you know, that way, but it's more on the, it would be more on the producer side of things. So we don't necessarily get hit with the, you know, with so much of the tariff stuff that everybody's talking about right now.
Austin, I'm going to come back this way. If you don't mind telling people where you're out of and how many trucks you run, company name.
So I'm Austin with AH Trucking. We're based out of Purdy, Missouri. It's about an hour and 20 minutes straight west of here. We own 35 company trucks, have about 10 owner-operators, all hoppers. We've recently got into one belt trailer. We're figuring out that market. That's a nice market to get into, and also food-grade tank. We're working on a market for that, and would like to expand into that one as well. And we're looking to grow and stay here for a while.
It's funny you say that, because that was going to be my next question. When we were out visiting, like, you've kind of drifted a little bit different into some other segments. But what really kind of, I mean, obviously it was the customer, but how did you, what were the steps to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and invest in these new assets or these different trailers and go forward with this type of business?
It's all customer driven. If you're not growing with your customer, you're dying. Somebody else is going to come in and undercut you or try to take the business if you're not willing to grow with the customer. And we're willing to grow and do what we have to keep that business. And the walk-in floor space, we were pulling hopper freight for them, and they had their own truck, and the motor blew up in the truck, and he was tired of dealing with the truck and the driver, and just asked us if we would buy his walk-in floor belt trailer, I guess, and just take care of their belt trailer freight. So that was a no-brainer for us to just hop in and do that. And same with the food grade tanker. That's a little more of a niche market to get into. We're doing a little bit and would like to expand more into that market.
I'm going to throw one more at you and then go to Kelly, but you recently hired a CFO, and like for the first time, right? You didn't have one before.
Yes, sir.
And like, I assume that's a leap of faith, but I love that Steve Perryman was really talking about that in this, you know, before, and even how you can maybe even outsource a CFO to come in or a controller. Mm-hmm. But talk to this audience how that has made an impact on the business.
So it's made me sleep a lot better at night. Having a CFO that actually understands the trucking numbers versus a CFO in another industry. I feel like the trucking CFO understands the cash flow of things, understands the market, fuel markets, and all that, and he can put everything on a 4-year comparison and show it to you on 4 or 5 sheets of paper and explain everything and make everything just such a clear picture versus what we had. We didn't have that before, and it was very boggled and just overwhelming. And there was times like, do I even know what's going on, you know? But after a year of Melvin being here, things are much more clear. We have a better understanding of where we're going, and he's very good at what he does, and I'm blessed to have him.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kelly, before I forget, can you introduce yourself again, where you're based out of, how many trucks?
Yeah, Kelly Wilson here, co-owner of Wilson Bulk and Wilson Bulk Transport, based out of Abilene, Kansas. Jordan's here today as well. He's the other owner. We run 48 asset company trucks, and that's comprised of about 30 hoppers and belts, and the other 18 or so run a dedicated reefer contract and some dry van as well. Yeah, based out of Central Kansas.
What is your driver recruitment strategy, or how do you attract new drivers?
Well, it's kind of funny you bring that up. Jordan and I were talking on the way to the conference about, you always hear, driver retention, or how do you hire drivers, or what's your, and we kind of looked at each other as we were talking about it, and we're like, we really haven't had much of a problem. And I guess that just kind of goes back to maybe some culture within the company. The one thing is the guys that are in the seat and unloading the trailers and this, that, and the other, they're the most valuable asset we have. And we have to take care of those guys and treat them as if it were us. I still get out from time to time and am in the truck as well. So I think our drivers see that too and recognize it, and I make sure to let them know that their efforts are being recognized within the company.
David, how do you all, or what have you had best of luck for advertising to find drivers, or where have you had the best luck advertising?
Really for us, because the industry out where we're at is such a close-knit environment. Everybody knows everybody, stuff like that. It comes through, word of mouth, and just, I've been in the industry out there for, 27, 28 years, so it's one of those things that, we pass around a lot of drivers out, in our area. Guys work for this company, then, they bounce around and end up at this company, and, so you kind of know who the guys are you want to work with and the guys you don't, and, so we have to weed through some of the crap, but for the most part, you know who the good guys are because they've worked for somebody, or something. And like with anything else, a good driver reputation, precedes them. So, you try to latch onto those guys and do what you can to make sure that the environment's good for them, for their families. I mean, like I said, we're a family-run company, so family's very big for me and my wife. We want to make sure drivers aren't living on the road, living in trucks. If they choose to be out, then we won't turn them down to work if they want to work. But, I try to get my guys home as often as possible if they got family things going on, So we don't really, we're kind of like Kelly, we don't really have a recruitment type of deal. It's just, when a good driver comes to us and he looks like he's going to be a good fit, because a small carrier, your driver has to be a great fit for your company. Yeah. If it's not somebody that fits into the team mentality and works well with you, your customers, stuff like that, they usually wash out pretty quick. So
yeah, I think I saw Kim Foltz. I haven't talked to you yet, but when I was visiting Foltz Trucking last fall, if I remember right, I was talking to the recruiter, and they don't allow anybody just to apply. They have to be referred by another driver. And actually, I think Bruce Oakley does the same thing. But I love that like anybody that gets hired into the company, it has to actually be a referral. It can't be somebody that's directly applied. Kelly, you're going to say something.
And that's something I wanted to say. You asked me about a recruitment program. We don't have a recruiter on staff, but we do, and that's our drivers.
Yeah.
Our number, almost daily, well, at least weekly, another driver will run into a driver at some location or he knows somebody or whatever the case may be. Those are the ones that are recruiting for us.
Yeah. Austin, how do you keep somebody from job hopping? How do you keep that driver And I think we talked about this one too. But how do you keep them from going to the guy up the road and staying with you, or that guy up the road that you knew he was driving there, and now all of a sudden he's wanting to come work for you?
That's a tough one because, in my opinion, they're going to do what they want to do. We try to offer them as many benefits as you can: health insurance, dental, vision, 401, nice new equipment. Try to give them the home time that they want. Top pay. You can only give them so much until they're just going to keep job hopping. I feel like there's those guys that are constantly job hopping every 3 to 6 months, and that's all they're going to do for the rest of their life. So that's a pretty tough one to figure out.
Yeah. Kelly, I want to bounce this one to you. Another question that came in. This is really good because you were there at one time. How can, it says, explain their experience being a small fleet under 10 trucks. How do you get to work with bigger companies and bigger contracts? Because I remember one time you guys were doing work for Costco. But how does a smaller fleet get in to those bigger companies to get their foot in the door?
Yeah, and you'll see a prime example. We have a nursery stock contract that supplies all the nursery flowers, plants, and things like that to all the Lowe's and Menards here in the Central States. And we're not actually working for Lowe's and Menards. We're actually working for the greenhouse themselves. And so, we say that we're working for some of those big companies, and in real honesty, we're working with a little bit smaller operation, still a big operation though, as far as the greenhouse. And you got to find them. You got to stay persistent in finding who the right person is to talk to at those locations, and then reach out every so often, kind of be a little bit of a squeaky wheel, and then there will be a time when their current carrier or someone else drops the ball and they need someone to come in, and just tell yourself never say no, in instances like that when you're trying to get in with certain customers.
David, I was talking to a gentleman last night, and I've heard this over and over. What's hard for companies like you all and even brokers out there, you're doing business with a reputable company, and then all of a sudden they hire some newbie or somebody that doesn't know you. You built this relationship up with that company forever. Well, that newbie comes in, and they're all of a sudden going to, cut rates. They're going to show how they can improve the bottom line, get the freight costs down. Like, what do you do in that situation, or how do you prevent that? I mean, I know all things can't be preventable, but that happens a lot in this industry. You get somebody to come in, well, then now they're going to change the game. They're going to, wipe out, make the P&L lower. How do you battle that?
Well, that's, there's always somebody looking to reinvent the wheel, and we dealt with this when we had trucks before. We had a contract hauling potatoes out of Idaho to Alabama, and new sales girl come in. Her idea of covering freight was, pick up the phone once in the morning, call a big carrier, give everything to the big carrier. We got left out in the cold. Well, went by for about a month. We got a phone call directly from the owner of the grocery chain that we were delivering to in Alabama that said, hey, just a heads up, we're getting ready to change potato producers. We're going to another producer. We'd like you to be our carrier. 15 minutes later, I get a call from them. That sales girl was out on her butt because they did not want to lose that contract. And so we were right back in. It's just, everybody's going to do what they're going to do. You're going to fight those battles, and even the big carriers fight those battles. But it's being persistent and being able to offer a service that keeps you in everybody's mind. We've got a few people, and there's a couple of them sitting in this room that we do a lot of work with, that when they need something, they call us because they know we're going to get it done.
Sometimes you almost just got to let things unfold. I mean, let it happen, as painful as it can be. I like what Steve said, don't be that angry CEO.
Well, it takes, my wife will tell you that I've had to develop a lot of patience over the years because, I am pretty quick to just say to heck with it, but it's patience and persistence and just making sure that, you treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and they remember that. You know, they remember the people that when they're in a bind that come in and take care of them and solve, you know, be a problem solver. You know, be the answer to somebody's problem.
Kelly, I want to bounce this one back to you. You know, you guys are really diversified, and you're just talking about the flour business that you were doing. Your company says Wilson Bulk, but you guys do a lot of non-bulk. Now, I'm speaking, this is a bulk freight conference, but like to make it out there and make it successful, you got to diversify a little bit. You know, I had this quote, and this is something I kind of came up with, was like thinking outside the bulk. I mean, we are core to bulk, but sometimes you got to figure out those other things. But you guys have really diversified. You know, we talked about the ready mix, the flour business, but maybe expand that a little bit. Again, maybe kind of thinking, again, outside the bulk.
Yeah, for sure. And Jordan's really, you know, we started in bulk, hopper freight, and we have 2 different locations. Actually, we do have another office and terminal up in Omaha, Nebraska. And that came on, and Jordan started with, he got a contract up there hauling groceries for a big supplier here in the Midwest. And, you know, it started with 2 trucks, went to 3 trucks, went to 5 trucks, and you know, we've got 18 of them up there now, and we're pulling out of a couple different DCs for them now. I will say that has been one of the key leaders in our success at Wilson Bulk, was the fact that we diversified from from early on stages of our business, and there's really no time at all in our business where both of them are doing below par, you know, as far as profitability, successfulness. You know, usually they complement each other. You know, one might be not pulling in the numbers we want to see, and the other one's just overpowering and doing phenomenal. And that's been a good offset for us, and I believe has made us pretty much unstoppable. I mean, even in times of uncertainty, you've got multiple arms and multiple sources of revenue in different sectors within the trucking.
Yeah, that's good. We're getting close on time, so I'm going to ask one more question. Man, this has been awesome. I think that like these questions, earlier when Steve was talking, I've had people texting me like, this is gold, like this is perfect. Like we've become kind of a business development program, and I think that's what's been cool about how we've kind of transformed the conference. But Austin, I like Marcus actually shared in the very beginning, he talked about that circle, and what stuck to me was the pride at the top. So I think about this when I ask this question, like how much, even when business is good, like how much could you still be prospecting and cold calling those customers out there? Because again, we can think back 3-4 years ago when business was just flying off the shelf at us. You can kind of sit back and just let it come. Now's not the case, but like how disciplined should you be, or what should be your strategy on prospecting and cold calling on a regular basis?
I think if you're not doing any cold calling, you should be doing cold calling every day. At least pick out 3 clientele or 3 customers that you want to start doing business with. Reach out to them once a week or every other week, you know. Shoot them an email, shoot them a call. I feel like we gain a new customer at least once a month that we were not doing business with through a broker or directly, you know. And I feel that's a win. If you can gain a new customer a month, you're doing pretty good. And that's what I try to do is reach out to new customers and new clientele and say, hey, here's our services. We're in the area. What can we help you with? And there's times that they're like, oh yeah, give us some bids, and it's a home run for us. So.
Yeah. Well, we got to move on. This has been awesome. Actually, I feel like we just kind of got started here, and I can tell by looking at the people like this is interesting. We're going to have more panels today. We're going to keep moving because I am a time fanatic. I want to make sure that we're to the schedule and get Marcus on here and then move to lunch. So, hey, can we give a round of applause for these guys?
Thanks, Jared.
Yeah, thank you.
I talk to most companies though, especially that offer a service like trucking. And if you say, well, do you currently talk about cost and price on your website? They're going to say, well, no, Marcus, but you don't understand my industry. You don't understand my business. You don't understand my buyer. That's not the way that it works. Folks, if there's one thing that I know is this. If you want to become the voice of trust, the most known and trusted brand in your space, you got to be willing to talk about, you got to be willing to show, and you got to be willing to sell in a way that nobody else is. And you got to be more human in the process. Talk about, show, sell. You can't do it like your competitors.
I don't know about you, but that guy seemed a little bit too intense for me. So we've got about an hour together, and I hope it's a fun hour. I'm going to need your help making it a fun hour. If the AV team, if you could bring me one microphone out that I can just use in case I talk to anybody in the crowd. I have a special place in my heart for all things trade and blue collar. I think you're going to see why here in a second. See, I started as a pool guy 24 years ago. I don't think anybody ever says I want to be a pool guy growing up. I know a lot of people say, because I've watched some of those videos with the BulkLoads podcast, I know a lot of people say I want to be a trucker. Not a lot of people say I want to be a pool guy. But I'm really grateful that I became a pool guy as it really changed my life. So I started the company in 2001 with a couple of buddies, and things were going okay for us up until this particular date. Does anybody remember this date? Raise your hand if you remember this date. What was this date? Who can say it? Yeah, it was crash, Lehman Brothers. Good or bad day for pool guys? Yeah, really bad day for pool guys because, generally speaking, the way people get money to buy a pool is they get a second mortgage or a home equity line. And after this day, they couldn't do that. And so within 48 hours of this crash, we had lost $250,000 in business. People that said, hey, we want to get a pool, they just withdrew that deposit. They said, we just can't do it. And so over the coming weeks, things got worse and worse and worse. And by January of 2009, we were going over that proverbial edge. I talked to 3 consultants. They all said the same thing. You should file bankruptcy. But the problem was, if I filed bankruptcy, I was going to lose my home, my business partners, my 2 business partners would have lost their homes. And at the time, our 16 employees would have lost their jobs. So we had to figure out how to get back over that edge. We didn't have much time. We certainly didn't have much money. But the great thing is about pain and suffering, and some of you remember, who went through 2008, 2009, that time period? Yeah, and 2010, right, because there was slow carryover. Yeah, I know that was tough. There's something about tough times, right? You've heard the phrase, tough times make? That's right, strong men and women. That's exactly what it does. It makes strong people. And it's interesting, too, it's during tough times that we tend to innovate, that we tend to think outside the box, that we tend to do things that are different. And so if you start to see that you're struggling in the coming, let's say, months or years, and we don't know necessarily, I know Riley was talking about it, we don't know necessarily what's going to happen next. It's pretty volatile, but I do know that if there are hard times, it's going to create some exceptional stories of organizations in this room that are doing things very differently. And you're going to create, or better stated, you're going to break some rules in the industry that have been long followed, and people are going to say, you can't do that, but you're going to do it, and then the marketplace is going to respond, and then everybody else is going to say, well, I guess we should do that too, because we've seen in the history of the world, always in business, the rule breakers become the rule makers, and everybody else becomes the rule followers, and that's how it works. And so I want to challenge you today to break some rules. I'm going to challenge you to think differently. Now, you already know I am not a trucker, I'm not a bulk freight guy. It's not necessarily my thing, although I do have a little bit of experience with it because of my business. Now, and I'll share that with you, and hopefully you'll have patience with me. If I don't say something just right, you'll work with me, because the whole idea is that you are taking the thing that I say, the principle that I say, and you're saying, how can I apply it to us? So it's during this time of struggle that I started to really think about the buyer in the changing market and things like the internet. And what I heard in my simple pool guy mind was, you know, Marcus, if you just obsess over your customers' questions, worries, fears, issues, concerns, and you're willing to address those online better than anybody's ever done, in this case, the fiberglass pool space, you might save your business. So to make a long story short, we essentially became like the Wikipedia of fiberglass pools. Anybody that had any question, any worry, any concern, they would find the answer from us online, on our website, on our YouTube, and we started to get traction from all over the country. And the company exploded, and we became the most trafficked swimming pool website in the entire world. And then we started manufacturing fiberglass pools. And then we became the first franchise of fiberglass pools in the US. It was funny too, because I never saw myself getting into trucking, shipping, and logistics. But of course, if you're shipping fiberglass pool shells all over the country, which is what we do today, that's exactly what we had to become. So it's been a very, very interesting ride for me. Now, from this experience came a book. And when I was on the pod with Jared, we actually talked about this. This is why he called me in the first place. He read this book, They Ask You Answer, which helps you think very, very differently about sales, marketing, and growth. Now, that book has done over 100,000 copies. We've had people in this industry, organizations that have done some pretty exceptional things with it. I might show you a couple of those examples today. But this week, the third version of the book came out, and it's actually called Endless Customers. And what's cool about Endless Customers, it's a system that anyone can follow that will help you become the most known and trusted brand in your market, whatever your market is. Now, what's interesting about this system, too, you could also call this, if you wanted to, Endless Recruits. Because the same principles that apply to attracting more, let's say, customers and becoming more known in your market are the exact same principles that apply for you attracting the best team members you can attract to your organization. I'm going to show you how those things relate. Now remember, the key here though is that you don't allow yourself to fall in the trap of that won't work for us. This is a principle-driven conversation. And everything that I heard Steve say this morning, I was like, man, that's good. Man, that's good. I am ready to be fed when I come to an event like this. I hope you are too. So let me tell you a story about a CEO named Steve Sheinkoff. Now, Steve Sheinkoff owns Yale Appliance, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. Anybody from the Boston area in this room? No, all Midwest. That's good. You're much more patient and nice. Good. Now, with that being said, by the way, I was reading about Branson, and I did not know all the goodness to this town. They said it's like you could have Las Vegas with God, faith, and the American flag. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I didn't know a place like this existed. It's like, and they have more shows sometimes than Nashville and Las Vegas, live shows. I'm like, it's the live show capital of the country, and I didn't even know about this. I got to come here. This is great. Thank you, Jared, for bringing me. Anyway, this guy here in Boston, Steve, he owns Yale Appliance. They sell kitchen appliances. And he was trying to grow and scale his business. And he reaches out to me. He'd been reading my stuff, and he's like, Marcus, I want to grow, and I'm online, but the problem is it's just not getting much traction. I said, the problem, Steve, I'm looking at your stuff, is that you're not talking about what your customers, your buyers actually want to know. He said, okay, what do they want to know? I said, you've got to learn to think exactly like them and focus in on the questions, the worries, the fears that they have. That's the essence of this they ask, you answer mentality. He said, okay, I'll do it. Now, a few months after that, he reached out to me. He said, Marcus, I keep getting a question. Now, who here has bought a kitchen appliance in the last 6 months? All right, good. Many of you, and by the way, buying a kitchen appliance, not a lot of fun because it means your old appliance broke, right? One of the number one questions that Steve kept getting was, which appliance brand do you fix the least? Now, would you like to know that? If you're going to buy a kitchen appliance, would you like to know which refrigerator breaks down the least in this whole store? Now, anybody in this room would love to know that, especially if you've ever had a freezer go out on you before. You know what it's like to lose $1,000 worth of food. So Steve says to me, I keep getting this question. I said, so what are you going to do, buddy? He said, well, the problem is, if I address this question, then it means that I have to praise some of these brands, but at the same time, I've got to throw some of them under the bus. I said, so what are you going to do, Steve? He said, well, I'm not sure. I said, who are you more concerned about, your customer or these manufacturers? He said, ultimately, I'm more concerned about the customer. I said, well, you make a choice. So he gives me a call back. He says, Marcus, I got the solution. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show the world every brand that I sell. I'm going to show the total units that I sold for each brand, number of appliances each year. I'm going to show them the total number of service calls that I make for each one of those appliance brands. And then they're going to see the least service brand that I sell all the way down to the most service brand that I sell. Now, how many retailers of kitchen appliances in the world do you think are brave enough to do something like that? Go ahead, say it. That's right. You said zero, and I agree. Zero. Nobody had ever done this before. And so Steve said, I'm going to put this chart online. And he did it, and for the first year and a half, that page of his website got read 50,000 times a month. To this day, it continues to pick up momentum. It comes out every year. And oh, by the way, did the vendors, the OEMs, the manufacturers, did they get upset? Did they get bothered by that? What do you think? Yes, they did. They did. And Steve said when they complained to him, well, I guess you just got to do a little bit better. Now, to this day, he continues to crush it. This is this year's article. He has a video series. He's got all of it. The most reliable appliance brands for 2025. First sentence, and I know you can't see in the back, the first sentence says, you're about to read the most debated appliance article on the internet. Seriously. Now, who won this year? Would you like to see the least service brand of kitchen appliances in the world? Would you like to see it? Just say yes so I feel good. Okay, good, now I feel good. All right, so the least service, and I don't speak French very well, is Gaggenau. Does anybody have a Gaggenau? That's the least service brand of kitchen appliances. Now, the most service, would you like to know? If you would like to know, say yes. Now, we'll see if any of you have this brand in your home right now. Now you're going to go home and you're going to check your warranty, aren't you? Now, here's the thing. Steve has become the ultimate trusted advisor when it comes to kitchen appliances. People all over the country know Steve and learn from Steve. Now, you already might be thinking, that's kitchen appliances, that ain't trucking, that ain't freight, that ain't what I do. No, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's all built on the same thing. So I would ask you, what are you disrupting? What are you doing differently with your sales, with your marketing, with your recruiting in 2025? Are you any different, or are you like everyone else? You know, I had a good old Tyler, my friend, with Bulk. He sent me a bunch of your websites that I could study. And I ran a whole series of tests through the most advanced AI models today. And I said, what is your impression of all of these companies? And literally what AI said is, they're all pretty much saying the exact same things. If you want to stand out, you can't say what everybody else is saying. Now, there's an interesting development that a lot of you right now are going to roll your eyes about and say, I don't care about that thing. And it happened in November 30, 2022. Does anybody know what happened on that day? That's ChatGPT. Now, just to gauge this, because I want it for historical reference, because if we ask this question in 5 years, it's going to be 100% of the room. Raise your hand if you have already used ChatGPT or a similar tool in your business. Okay, so right now, it's not bad. I think that's pretty good. So we're probably running about 40-50% of the room. It will soon be 100%, and you're going to say, we could never survive and keep up with today's market if we were not using the efficiencies that come with AI. Now, we're not going to spend a bunch of time on AI here, but here's what I can tell you. For the longest time in business, we had to please and be recommended by two different entities or parties. Essentially, for as long as business has existed, we've had to be recommended by our customers. That's essential. That will never change. We've got to offer an incredible customer experience. Those relationships will always matter. That's evergreen, non-changing. Now, over the last 30 years, this other thing happened that changed the way people perceive you, your brand, and the way you find companies and brands as well. It's called search engines, otherwise known as Google and the like. Now, those search engines, they have dominated what is known as, let's say, recommendations and buyer journeys for the better part of 3 decades. But now we have a huge shift. Because in the future, the way people are going to find you is that they're going to go to AI and they're going to ask AI what AI recommends. And instead of seeing a bunch of results, AI is going to give them only a few answers because we want it fast and we want it direct. That is the future. Now, you all might disregard it. You might say AI is not a big deal. And I would agree to some points that AI is not important. For example, let me show you how it's not important, but it's funny. Does anybody like dad jokes here? Got any good dads in the room? Does anybody like dad jokes? Come on, let me know if you like dad jokes. All right, we got a couple people like. Would you like to hear a dad joke that ChatGPT made about trucking and freight? Okay, I'll share one with you only because you asked. Here we go. Why did the trucker bring a pencil to the weigh station? He wanted to draw a lighter load. No, come on. You got to do better than that. Now, you're going to hear that and say, AI, that is never going to change the world. Not their poems, not their cheesy jokes, but the technology and the way that you use it is going to change the world. And we've got to be prepared for it. What it means is we've got to create signals to the world on a digital scale that say, hey, we are a known and trusted brand. This way, more potential teammates find us. This way, more potential customers find us. This way, we are recommended by all things AI, by all things Google search, or whatever that thing is. But it comes down to your ability to attract more signals. Now, if you want to stand out, if you want to attract more trust signals, because, by the way, if I said to you, what's your name, sir, right there in the middle? What is it? Neil. If I said to you, Neil, is trust going to be fundamental to your business in 5 years? What would you say? Yes, he said, Neil. I agree, Neil. If I said to you, is trust going to be fundamental to your business in 20 years? What would you say? Yeah. He said, hopefully not, because I want to be retired, right? But trust for everybody else that's still in the game, still going to matter, isn't it? Trust is the one variable about business that will, or one element of business that will never change. It is as important 50 years ago as it is today, and more important tomorrow, especially with the trust deficit that we have in the world today. We don't know who to believe. And so any signal that you can send out to people that says you are a trusted company, a trusted brand is a big deal. So if you want to drive more trust, here's what you need to do. 4 things. 4 things, and this is the basis of the endless customer system. Number 1, you must be willing to say what others in your space aren't willing to say online. Now, I want you to be very honest with me for a second. Please participate, all right? Raise your hand if you talk about things online that pretty much no one else in your industry talks about. Raise your hand. I see 2, 3 hands. Okay, I see 3 hands. All right. Lots of great opportunity there. Number 2, you got to be willing to show with video. Some of you already rolling your eyes. Here we go. Video. I didn't get into business, Marcus, to make videos. I didn't get into business to make those silly TikToks. Well, you got into business to provide you and your family, I guess, with financial peace. You got into business to meet the market where the market is. One thing I learned a long time ago when it came to business, and this hit me like a truck, it really hit me hard. I learned that when it comes to business, my personal opinions will really screw up some smart business decisions. And what matters most is the market and what does the market need? What does the market want? Where is the market going? It's not whether or not I like video or want to do video, it's what does the market want? And we'll talk about that. So you got to be willing to show what others aren't willing to show with video, especially if you want to become that known brand that attracts the best of the best people, the best customers. Number 3, you got to be willing to sell in a way that others aren't willing to sell. Raise your hand And be honest, that was great, the first one. If you can honestly say that you are selling in a very different way than the majority of your competitors in this space right now, raise your hand. One? One. Okay. Number 4, and along this path, you've got to be willing to be more human. In other words, there should be a face behind the brand. People want to connect with you on a human-to-human level, even though technology matters and is going to impact us very much. So, I want to talk about some of these. First one is, we want to say what others are not willing to say online. And again, as we're doing this, please apply it to your business, to your brand, and I'm going to show you a great example from this industry in just a minute. Now, there's 5 things that whenever any of us make a buying decision, there's 5 things that we research. There's 5 things that you always want to know before you reach out to a company. What is one thing that you always research before you reach out to a company? Anybody give me an answer? Go ahead and yell it out. All right, somebody said price. All right, now don't be so shy, everybody. What's another answer? What's another thing that you always research before you buy something? Go. Reviews. You said it fast. Good. Okay, now, those are 2 of the big 5 right there. You said reviews, you said price. Here's what we know. As buyers and consumers, we are obsessed with 5 subjects. And if you think about it, you have gone online and you have now researched these phrases or similar phrases thousands of times. We want to know, how much is it? We want to know all about cost, all about pricing. We want to know, what are the problems or the negatives with it? How could it go wrong? We want to know, how does it compare to the other thing that we're looking at? Comparisons. We want to know, reviews. What is everybody saying about it? The thing about reviews is we don't just want the good reviews, we also want the bad reviews. In fact, if a company doesn't have if they have no bad reviews, your trust goes down because it makes you say, something's not quite right. Something's not quite right. And number 5, best, most, top, etc. That is the big 5. That's what your buyers, regardless of whether you're a carrier, regardless of if you're a broker, regardless of if you're a shipper, it doesn't matter. This is what is dictating the questions that the market is researching. Business to business, business to consumer, this doesn't change. Now, what's wild, when someone is looking for a job, guess what they want to know? Number 1, compensation. Number 2, what are the negatives, the problems, the issues with this company? Number 3, how does this company compare to this other company? Number 4, what's everybody saying about this company? Number 5, what is the best company to work for in this area? It doesn't change. It's the exact same thing. If you can own these conversations, now all of a sudden you build this extraordinary brand. Now, I am all about you attracting great people because you have an incredible culture. I think that is always going to be number 1. I would say put your internal team culture before all of that, which, by the way, as someone that has a leadership communication coaching company, I can tell you very clearly that everything comes down to how we train our leaders. Some of you, let me just give you, it's just a tangent, but I got to say it. For some of you, you're having one-on-ones right now between managers and team members. How many of your managers have been specifically trained on how to give a one-on-one? And when I say specifically trained, I mean multiple role plays where they practice it out before they ever had to give their first one-on-one. Or did we just throw them to the wolves and say, go change this person's life? I'm sure if you talk to Steve, Steve would say, Steve, you still here, by the way? Yo, Steve, am I right on this one, big dog? Good, I'm glad you said yes, because then I would have been embarrassed, Steve. All right, so we have got to train these people to communicate at the highest of levels. It doesn't just happen until they learn how to do the thing. And then all of a sudden, they can be magical in those one-on-ones, in those team meetings. But it just doesn't happen by itself. Now, how do we address these 5 subjects? I'm going to show you how you can address a few of them. We're not going to go over all of them. The first one is fun because it's like a study in psychology, and we're going to talk about cost. All right? So, I need your help, okay? I want you to all participate. By a show of hands, how many of you have researched how much something cost online in the last year by a show of hands, okay? All right? Ma'am, you're not raising your hand, you okay? Are you Amish? Which is totally respectable, by the way. I totally respect the Amish people. I love their furniture. Now, with that being said, when you're on a website and you're looking for cost and price information and you cannot find any information on it, what's the emotion you experience? Go ahead, what's the emotion? Frustration. I knew you were going to say that. We like to say that's the F word of the internet. So what gives you the right in that moment to feel frustrated? You are the what, Brent? You're the? Disappointment. He said disappointment. Yeah, you're the customer, you're the buyer, and you're really disappointed. Now, in that moment of frustration, do you as the buyer, do you as the customer, do you say to yourself, Brent, well, that's okay, they're not talking about cost and price. I mean, it's got to be on here somewhere on this website. I'm going to keep on looking until I find it. My friend right here is shaking her head. No, sir. No, sir. What's your name? Whitney. You don't keep looking. In fact, Whitney, how long are you going to stay on a website looking for cost and price until you leave? She said, I'm not. That's right. We know the average person will spend less than 10 seconds looking for something on a website before they leave because we're getting more and more impatient, aren't we, Whitney? Now, in that moment of frustration, Brent, do you as the buyer, do you as the searcher, do you say to yourself, well, of course they're not talking about cost and price. It depends. They're a value-based company. I'm going to call them on the phone instead. Do you do that, Brent? Sometimes. He said sometimes. No. You also send faxes, don't you, Brent? Now, he corrected himself, and now he feels bad. Okay, so we know that Brent, instead of calling them, he keeps looking. And he looks until what happens?
I get my wife involved.
Until he finds, he said, until I get my wife involved. Until he finds what he's looking for. And generally speaking, whoever gives him that answer, what he's looking for, they're going to get what? They're going to get the business. If not the business, at least they're going to get the first phone call. And I'm sure we could all agree in this room, if you had a choice, you would rather be the first company contacted, yes or no? Yes. Absolutely, 100%. So based on that, the real reason we get so upset is because we know that they know as the business the answer, or at least a semblance of the answer. And because we know they know the answer and they're not giving it to us, we now feel like they're doing what? Hiding something from us. And the moment you feel like anybody is hiding anything from you online, what happens? You leave because trust is gone. And what's the business we're in? The business of trust. Yes, we're in bulk, but we're in the business of trust, every single one of us. Now, based on that, and this is the part that I love, because this is the part where I ask a question and everybody doesn't say anything and everybody looks at me real mean, but it's still really fun for me and for you, hopefully, which is this. Based on that, how many of you talk a lot about the cost and price of your services online today? Raise your hand. AV man, I don't think they heard the question, so let's just check it. Let's check it, okay? We're good? All right, we're good. All right, we're good. Now, this is the part where, like this guy here, this is the best one right here. Everybody take a look, my man. He's giving me the best stink eye I've ever seen at an event. He's leaned back. He's like, I cannot stand this pool guy. And even his accent I don't like. I just don't even know if there's anything about him. But then as I get closer, you're like, but his shoes aren't bad. His shoes aren't bad. What's up, Tim? Everybody give Tim a round of applause for playing along. All right? All right? I love you, Tim. Now, there's 3 reasons why we don't talk about cost and price. 3 reasons. First reason, we say every job is different. Marcus, we have way too many variables. If I came to you, any of you, and I said, could you explain to me those variables and what drives cost of shipping up or down, etc., could you explain it, yes or no? Absolutely 100%. 100%. Now, second reason why we don't like to talk about cost and price, we say, well, I don't want my competitors to see it, which is pretty funny because all of us in this room have a pretty decent sense as to what the rest of the industry charges, yes or no. 100% we said. And the third reason is we say, well, we tend to be the more expensive provider, the more expensive carrier, the more expensive freight company. And if we're more expensive and they see we're more expensive, well, then we just might do what? Scare them away. But do you know what scares someone away? It's not when you educate them and teach them and help them understand the thing that they want to know. What scares them away is when they, go ahead and say it, they can't find the thing. No difference than my best friend now, Tim. Tim goes to a restaurant tonight in Branson. Let's say Tim takes a loved one. He wants it to be a great experience. You want it to be a great experience, right, Tim? Okay. And you go to the restaurant, and on the menu, he sees that they're selling lobster. Anybody here like lobster? Tim loves lobster. Now, Tim, though, is looking at the menu with his loved one at that restaurant, and next to the lobster on the menu, it says, market price. Now, Tim has a dilemma, doesn't he? Because Tim is saying, I want that lobster, but I don't know if I can afford that lobster. Trucking's hard right now. And so, in that moment, what does Tim do? You see, Tim says, if I ask the server the market price and I don't order the lobster, it then makes Tim look what? Cheap. And Tim, we already know you're cheap, big dog. You know what I'm saying? And so what does Tim do? He orders the chicken. That's what he does. And he ordered the chicken not because he wanted that chicken, but he ordered it because the chicken was safe. Now you all smile a little bit and you say, I still don't think that's us, pool guy. Well, let's keep playing, shall we? When we embraced this mindset of endless customers and they ask, you answer, we said the first piece of content we're going to put on our website was, how much does a fiberglass pool cost? No pool company in the world had ever done this, believe it or not. Why? Because every job is different. Why? Because they didn't want to scare people away. Why? Because they didn't want to give it to the competitors. So we said, buying a pool, it's a lot like buying a car. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of accessories. And we explained all the factors that would drive the cost up and down. And because we did that, something magical happened. From a search perspective, if you went online and searched any of these things, we were one of the first ones you were going to see. In terms of phrases, we were the first ones that you saw. Now that's just visitors to the website. That's not a win, so let me show you how this equates to revenue. I'm going to get a little bit technical, but stay with me, I promise. It'll make sense. Here's a list of the number one phrases that generated the most traffic to the website over the next couple of years. So if you look at the top, we had fiberglass pool prices. 13,000 people went to Google, typed in fiberglass pool prices, and of those 13,000, 30 of them filled out a form and said, I want to get a quote from you. Now that number on the right side is low because at the time we were a small business, but eventually we became national. Now the red arrows indicate a phrase that when somebody searched that phrase, they landed on that article on the website, how much does the fiberglass pool cost? So here's what's so interesting. You have roughly 200 and some sales appointments that occurred because people landed on that article, how much does that fiberglass pool cost? How many of those sales appointments would have ever occurred if we had never addressed that question? How many? 0 to none. But they did happen. And many of them did come to the site. Many of them did learn more. Many of them did read more. Many of them did say, I want an appointment. Many did get a quote. Many did buy. We know the names. We know the values of the pool. And therefore, I can tell you without equivocation that that one single article generated $35 million in sales that we would not have had we not been willing to address the question. But did we ever say exactly how much a pool cost? Yes or no? No. You see, the problem is, especially in this industry, we're so stuck on the fact that I got to give an exact price that we're like not seeing the forest through the trees. And I'm not picking on you. This is so many industries that I talk to. We've got to start thinking more like the buyer. One single article, $35 million in sales. So one of the companies that I have worked with extensively is a company called Anderson Trucking Services. Has anybody ever heard of ATS? Okay, they're pretty big in this industry, and they completely embrace this transparency model. In a lot of ways, they just flipped OTR like on its head in terms of many of like what the other carriers were doing. And so they've got an entire pricing page, for example, of their website, and many pricing videos, by the way. They talk about the importance of honest pricing information. They talk about typical price ranges to ship your freight. They talk about learn about pricing for dry vans, learn about pricing for flatbeds, all the different types of shipping they do. They talk about it, they teach about it through text, through videos. And they're not giving exact numbers, but they're helping the market understand. They continue to talk about things like, what are the factors that impact your rates? So they talk about and teach about supply and demand. They teach about seasonality and how there's essentially a freight shipping calendar that impacts seasonality and many cost factors. They talk about things like urgency and how quickly you need it and how this can dictate pricing. And because they do that, they have generated dramatically more leads and more business and a better brand or a more known brand than many of their competitors. Because almost no one will touch this in the entire industry. And what's interesting is there's so many ways that you can teach about pricing. If you look at this right here, and I've got this very extensively in Endless Customers, but there's literally 16 questions that people want to know generally about price that you could be addressing without saying exactly how much something costs. So we can build value by talking about it. But on the recruiting side, it's the same. They create content that is specific to what their potential team members would want to know. For example, how to make more money as a truck driver in 2025. How many truck drivers would want to know that? There's a bunch. ATS is owning that conversation, and because of that, they have this snowball effect with the brand that continues to grow and grow and grow. Could you do that? I think you could. Now, some of you are saying, Marcus, I don't even have a website. Okay, that's fair. You got a Facebook page. You've got YouTube potentially. You don't have to have a website to become a more known and trusted brand. Now, I'm going to skip to best. People love to search best. You know, one time when I was still a pool guy, and I think you'll appreciate this story because this affects all of you in this room. I was in Richmond, Virginia. This was over a decade ago. And as I was at the end of my pool guy career in terms of selling pools, and I was sitting down with this couple, and I had met with them for 2 hours, and they said, Marcus, we like you. We think we want to get this pool from you. But if we don't get this pool from you, is there anybody else you might recommend? And I thought, I hate this question. I just want to sell a pool right now. And so I was sitting there, and I said, daggone, and they didn't buy the pool. But I had a long drive home, and I thought, well, they asked the question, which means I need to do what? I got to answer it. So I went home that night, and I wrote this article right here that I published on our website. Who are the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia? And I came up with a list of 5 of the best pool builders in Richmond, Virginia. Now, you might be saying to yourself, that's so weird. I don't understand why you did that. First off, if they're reading this article, where are they? Yeah, they're on my site. I'm winning. Secondly, look, let's imagine you just moved to Richmond, Virginia. You want to get a pool, but you don't know who you want to get the pool from. So you go online, you search best pool builders, Richmond, Virginia. You start to read this article. I want you to tell me your impression of this company after the first paragraph. I'll read it for you because I know you can't see it. It says this. Each year, we at River Pools and Spas meet with well over 100 households in the Central Virginia, Richmond area with respect to their in-ground swimming pool installation. And because so many folks know our thoughts and feelings from this website on all things pool construction, they often ask us, who are some of the other builders' competitors we have in the area? We're never one to shy away from being blatantly honest with respect to the competition, and we want our customers to be as informed as possible. Here's a list of some of the companies that have a solid in-ground pool building history in the Richmond area. What's your impression of this company right now? They're honest. Do you feel like they're an expert, yes or no? Yes, because they addressed the elephant in the room. And nobody had ever done this in our industry before. What's the result of this? Well, of course, if you go online, you search best pool builders, Richmond, Virginia, we're one of the first ones you're going to see. But let's say hypothetically, you went online and you search reviews, play more pools. Now, that's my biggest competitor in Richmond, Virginia. Reviews, play more pools, Richmond, Virginia. I know you can't see it in the back, but this is the search results. Once you get past the first one, which is Yelp, the first result you're going to see and the one you're most likely going to click on is my website. And that's why today, if you're researching any of my competitors, oftentimes you're going to learn about them from who? From me. Isn't that awesome? Now, I had a lady come to me, true story. A lady came to me like, I don't know, it's probably like 10 years ago now, 8 or 9, I don't know. She says, the craziest thing happened, Marcus. I was this close to signing a contract with Playmore Pools. But before I signed that contract, I decided to go online and research their company. And as I was researching their company, I stumbled across this article that you guys had written. I said, my goodness, these guys are so honest. I should probably call them too. And of course, you know what happened, don't you? Because otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you the story, would I? Now, that article generated that year over $250,000 in sales. And some of you are saying, but aren't you afraid you now introduced them to your competition? Folks, if somebody wants to know who your competitors are, roughly how long will it take them to figure it out? Seconds. And this is why I know and you know that consumer and buyer ignorance is no longer a viable sales and marketing strategy. If you want to grow and if you want to do extraordinary things, you can't do it like everybody else in your space. What's so cool, if you go to the ATS YouTube page, you'll see things like best paying trucking companies. They literally talk about and brag or speak highly of their competitors in the industry. They talk about 7 best trucking companies for new drivers, high-paying trucking jobs for 2025. And you see the views that these videos are getting because this is what people want to know. That's radical transparency. Most brands aren't willing to go there because they're coming from a place of scarcity versus a place of abundance. That's powerful. That's pillar number 1. We don't have much time for the other pillars, but the second pillar is show what others aren't willing to show. So I got a little stat here for you. Do you realize 82% of all the time we spend online this year is going to be watching video? 82%. Now, maybe not you personally, but when it comes to the rest of the world, video. Video is becoming the most essential element of a brand today. And many of us are sleeping on it. I'm here to tell you, and this is going to sound almost like blasphemy to you, to some of you. You have to start thinking much more like a media company. True or false, Jared? Thank you for saying true, Jared. Took you about 3 seconds, though. You had me waiting. I was scared. If you look at Jared, and if you look at what BulkLoads is, BulkLoads has become definitively a media company. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say that in a great way. The reason why we're all in this room is because he is putting himself out there, or the brand, not just himself, the brand is putting itself out there in a very different way than many in the industry. And because he has put themselves out there and he's telling these stories and showing them through the pod and through the YouTube page, now you're saying, I trust that guy, I believe in that guy, I want to do business with that guy. And that's how he's able to build out this incredible ecosystem of businesses. You can do the same thing with your brand. I've done the same thing with mine. But much of it starts with how we see video. When we started manufacturing pools, no manufacturer of fiberglass pools in the world had shown how they manufacture their pools. We created a series of 8 videos, the average length 10 minutes, an 80-minute essentially series that a homeowner could watch. And if you wanted to start a fiberglass pool manufacturing company, you could watch that and literally you'd have all the tips you needed to start your own company. But we did it because no one had shown it. I got calls from other manufacturers saying, dude, what are you doing? You're showing your secret sauce. I'm like, secret sauce? There's no secret sauce. Everybody knows it's Thousand Island anyway. Come on, y'all, let's go, right? And so I was like, they want to see the thing. And because we showed the thing, suddenly all of these homeowners around the country were saying to pool dealers, I want to do business with river pools because they're the only ones that are willing to show how they do what they do. I'm going to make a bold prediction, especially for some of you sellers in this room. The time is coming where your YouTube page is going to be much more significant to your growth, to your brand, than your very website. And this is the guy that sold a book to hundreds of thousands of people about how to become extraordinary, mainly through your website. But I'm not married to the past. What I'm married to is the way we're evolving as buyers and consumers. You must be video-centric. Start showing the story that is you, your company, your job. Start attracting people. You know, the problem with just recycling drivers, let's say, is we don't have a farm system if all we do is recycle. We have to bring people, attract people to blue collar, attract them to the trades. And everything that's, you know, it's so funny. For years I heard artificial intelligence, first industry that was going to be affected, freight. Nope, wasn't the case. We're still going to go strong for quite a while. I don't care if you have autonomous vehicles. You're going to be strong for a while if you continue to do what you do. Do you know who's in trouble? White-collar businesses. White-collar is what's in trouble. And many of the people now that were considering white-collar before are coming over and considering the trades. Trades is having a renaissance as we speak. But the key is that as an industry, you have to show the story behind the trade. And you can't expect Mike Rowe to be the only person to do it. Everybody has to take part in that. Show your story. You've got a better camera on this phone right here than anyone in Hollywood had 20 years ago. It's extraordinary what we can do, and many of us aren't leveraging it the way we could. Pillar number 3, sell in ways others aren't willing to sell. I'm going to show you something here that are going to make many of you say, never's going to happen. It's going to happen. There's a stat that's changing the world right now. Here's what it is. 75% of all buyers say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience. Now, you might not like that in terms of being on the receiving end, but you like that as a buyer, don't you? Because as a buyer, you want control. You see, we don't hate salespeople. We just don't want to talk to them until we are ready, until we're informed, until we're comfortable, until we're confident we're not going to make a mistake. So what does this mean? It means the more control you give the buyer during the buyer's journey, the more they connect with you. The less control you give them, the less they connect with you. Well, how do you give them control? Through tools called self-service. I talk about this a ton in the new book. So when it comes to self-service, there's 5 majors. Self-assessment, that's when someone gets a score, like a readiness score, a grade. Self-selection, that's when someone's trying to make a choice and you help them through an interactive tool by a series of questions, you make that recommendation. Self-configuration is when you allow them to build the thing that they're interested in. Self-pricing, I'll show you that in a second, and then self-scheduling. They don't have to talk to a human to schedule the thing. This, you're going to start to see all over the bulk freight industry and all industries. This is what you're going to see. Now, let me give an example from my site, River Pools. So River Pools today, just to help you understand, I am a silent business partner with River Pools today. We sold the manufacturing, but I'm still an owner of the original River Pools, which is called River Pools of Virginia. Now, on our website, we give people 3 different options. The first thing is they can have an experience, an interactive experience, where we help them choose what shape and size pool is right for them. Like they would have with a salesperson, they do it on the site. They come to us knowing already. Second, if someone doesn't know what type of pool they want, should I get concrete? Should I get vinyl? Should I get fiberglass? We have a tool that makes that recommendation based on the answers they give in the interactive questions. And what's wild about that is every single day I recommend to people, you shouldn't buy our product, you should buy concrete, you should buy vinyl. No one does this. And the third is a build and price your pool tool. We were the first manufacturer in the world to do this for swimming pools. Everybody said you can't have a pricing calculator because you don't set the end price. I said, what do you mean? Of course we can do it. We just can't give an exact price. What the buyer wants is a sense for what it is. So often, that's what they're trying to understand. Yes, at the end, they need an exact price, but at first, they just want to know roughly what is it going to cost. And so, we have this calculator where they can go on and build and price their pool. They can choose what shape they want. Then they get to see what comes with their base package of the pool. And we explain it like a salesperson would explain it in the home. Then we allow them to choose options and we teach them about the options. What type of patio do you want? Here's the differences. Well, what type of upgrades do you want? Here's what each one of these means. And they're choosing the whole time. What are some potential hidden costs that you're going to have? And they fill this whole thing out, and as they do it, boom, they fill out a form, they get it instantly emailed to them, and then if you notice at the bottom left, it says, here is what you chose. Based on what you said, your swimming pool is going to be between $111,000 and $160,000. Now you might say that's a huge range. It's a big range, but it is something, and no one else in the industry gives that. This right here, for my swimming pool company, gets 100 to 200 leads a day during the summertime. A day. So prolific are pricing estimators in terms of your ability to win trust and get more leads that I said, this is where the future's headed, and I started a software company last year called Price Guide. This allows any industry to put a pricing estimator and build it and put it on their site in less than 30 minutes and immediately start to see lead gen. What we see from pricing estimators is that when you put it on your site, typically you get exactly, I shouldn't say exactly, but roughly 300% more leads than you were getting before. So if you're getting 10 leads a week right now, if you put an estimator on your site, you're going to start to see about 30 leads a week. And what's wild is, if you went into Price Guide right now, I did this a couple days ago, and I said, how quickly could I build one for bulk freight? Like how fast would it, like how long would it take? So you choose your industry on the tool, you choose your industry, you type in bulk freight. And then the AI, because this tool uses AI, will help you choose the services. But let's say you want to put your own services in there. You say, I only do agriculture and I only do food and beverage. And I'm just being totally hypothetical. Then you can build out the estimator with the help of the AI. The AI will show you, well, based on the fact that you want to give people an estimate for agricultural loads, then there's a series of questions. So for example, the first one is, what type of agricultural goods are you shipping? And then it has corresponding numbers that you can input yourself as the business owner to essentially get your ranges. It's going to also add questions like, what is the estimated weight of your shipment? You can put in your ranges. Then it's going to say, okay, what is the distance of your shipment? Once again, you put in the numbers and you put in the ranges. And then finally, do you need any additional services? Loading, unloading, special handling, anything like that. The last thing it does for you is it creates the thank you page, once again with the AI. All you have to do is edit it, and then after what took me literally 5 minutes to do, this whole thing took me 5 minutes, it gives you a snippet of code. You put that, or you give that to your web person, you put it on your website, and you have, from that second, a working estimator, and it's the easiest way that you could ever get dramatically more leads to your website. And here's what's crazy to me. 3 or 4 of you in the room will try it, and the rest will say, there's just no way. That's what's wild to me. Because that's how it works. I would ask you to be part of that 3 to 5%. That's called Price Guide, but the idea is that you show more than anybody else. As we're closing out, I'm going to give you something to think about. Could you change the rules of this industry? It starts by asking yourself and your team great questions. I'm going to give you 3 questions to take home with you and think about. And for that 1 or 2 people that really go after those questions, answer it, and do something, take action, you're going to see something special is going to happen for your company. Let me give you 3. First question is, what's a bold claim you deeply believe, but fear backlash if you say it publicly, and how could it redefine your brand? So what's a bold claim you believe about this industry that if you stated it, some people would say, you're crazy, but it would build your brand and the trust people have for you? Are you brave enough to put it out there? Because I know if you've been in the game for any period of time, you've got one of these on your mind already. Number 2, which is similar to number 1. What is the thing that makes you most upset about your industry that most of your competitors are currently doing? Does anybody in this industry do anything that upsets you? Does that happen in this industry? When I started with fiberglass pools, do you know how they built fiberglass pools? They dug a hole, they put a base of sand down, they put the pool shell on top of it, they filled it with water, and they backfilled around the pool with sand, and they poured a patio around that. Well, guess what the problem with sand is? Sand settles. In fact, there was this little book 2,000 years ago that said, don't build your house on sand. Yet, In the year 2001, we're building pools on sand? What the heck is wrong with us? And so we openly told the entire industry, put your pool on gravel, stone, crushed stone, backfill, crushed stone. No more sand, no more washing, no more settling. When we started, 20% of all pools were built on gravel, 80% on sand. Today, 80% of all fiberglass pools are built on stone gravel. And that's because we spoke up. And yeah, I got attacked for it. And I would say to anybody that attacked me, your choice is to give a homeowner an inferior product. My choice is to watch out for them long term. That's my challenge to you. Think differently. Third one, what's the one promise you can make to customers that your competitors are too scared to match? This one makes you nervous even thinking about it. But nerves are good. When was the last time you did anything with your business when it came to the way that you presented yourself to the world that made you truly scared? I would challenge you to think about that. Now, some of you might want the slides. I want to give them to you. Here's how you get the slides if you want the slides. I'll send them to anybody. I would just ask this. There's a little survey. It has 3 total questions. Now, one of the questions on the survey is, would you like to work with Marcus's company to implement this system in your business? Do not feel like you need to say yes. If you have 0 interest, don't fill it out, but it's one of the questions, and I tell you that now. But the other question is, would you like the slides? And they will send you the slides. Here's our challenge. We're in a period of volatility. We're in a period of major noise. AI is changing business as we know it in ways that we can't even yet fathom, but you'll see incredible changes in the next 5 years. So our choice is to do it the way it's always been done, or we can start to break the rules. Because again, the rule breaker will become the rule maker. I would challenge you to disrupt, to be different, to think different. And if you will, everything starts to change. In 2009, I was at a position in my life where when I got home, my wife was too afraid to ask, how was your day? Because she knew how my day was. Full of stress, full of pain, and I was probably overdrawn. But then we started to, instead of just work harder, we started working smarter. And we started thinking differently. And that changed my whole life. And it could change yours too. That's the ask. I hope you have an incredible, incredible event. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it. And if you want, later on today, there's an implementation session at 4 o'clock. Any question you have about sales or marketing or growth, I will be in there to answer any questions you have. So for those interested, that's at 4 o'clock. It's on your schedule. Otherwise, have an amazing event. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Marcus. That was fantastic. I don't know if I can match his energy, so I won't try to. But my name's Tanner. I'm with BulkLoads, and I head up the permitting side of things. And instead of going into all the services we offer, this year they said I could dismiss everyone for lunch. So I think that's much better for everyone. And so just a minute, I'm going to pray, dismiss. We still have an action-packed afternoon. And just a reminder, for lunch, we'll be able to go right through there into the ballroom we were in last night. And again, if you need the workstations and all the breakout sessions are going to be upstairs on the 2nd floor this afternoon. For lunch, our sponsor is Smart Freight Funding, so we do want to say a thank you to them. And I will go ahead and pray really quick, and then we'll dismiss for lunch. All right. Dear God, thank you for this day. Thank you that we all get to be together and just learn. And Lord, we do thank you for the food. We ask that you would bless it to our bodies. And God, I just pray for everyone as they're traveling on the road, those who aren't here, and those who are going to be traveling home this weekend. You would just keep everyone safe and help us just to honor you in everything we do this week. In your name, amen. Thank you, guys.
I was a highwayman Along the coach roads I did ride, with sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25, but I am still alive.
I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed a schooner around the Horn of Mexico. I went aloft to furl the mainsail in a blow. And when the yards broke off, they said that I got killed. But I'm living still. I was a dam builder across a river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. But I am still around. I'll always be around and around and around and around and around. I fly a starship across the universe divide. And when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again. Or I may simply be a single drop of rain. But I will remain. And I'll be back again and again and again. And again, and again, and again.
Big John, Big John.